for sure right now. I'm doing like the electric slide for those of you who, right? You are feeling me. We're really quiet today. I think that's a win. That's a W. We feeling good? Yes, it is our final day, day 3 here in Ojai. I have really, really mixed feelings. Like, sure, okay, whatever. I miss my family. But mostly, I have had such an incredible time with you. And the beauty about this summit is that we don't just sort of go out into that night quietly, right? We go out with a bang on the final day. We've got some amazing conversations still ahead. But last night was absolutely fantastic, right? Like, I'm sure it will be talked about again, but one of my favorite moments was the Global Sports Mentoring Group, all of these women talking about where they were from. It doesn't hurt that you also can party. Like, I felt very seen last night, ladies. Thank you. In fact, we're going to take a look back at day 2, just in case you had a few of those St. Vincent drinks and forgot. How was St. Vincent, by the way, in Sarah, Spain? What an incredible conversation. She is a dynamic woman. So we're going to look back at day 2 with the Summit in 60 Seconds, presented by Toyota. Good morning. Who got a morning activity in? Shout out to my ladies that went on the hike.
I think the thing that I'm the most proud of in my 22 years at ESPN is the ability to mentor women as they've come through, to put women in the chair and take chances and take risks.
For 50 years, women willing to fight have been the key to advancing Title IX. We just got to keep fighting.
Becky Hammond will be joining ESPN as an NBA studio analyst.
You can't have good culture with bad character. I love talent. I love size. I love athleticism. I'll take a little less of that for character and competitiveness.
Let's hear it for St. Vincent.
No one gets better at being an artist by surrounding themselves with people who are like, that was amazing. I'm going to wade into waters that are probably too deep and really kind of go to the edges of what you think you can do and just jump off the cliff, man. I lose their mind.
All right. Wait, is Becky here? Is Becky Hammond here? I was going to say, forever now, when I see Becky Hammond, I will never, ever think of anything other than, it was a clear black night, a clear white moon, regulate, let's go! All right, so again, we're going to get to the conversations, but we're going to take a minute and talk to some of the women who are responsible for us all being here together, who put this event on and continue to create space for all of us in their respective fields. So, coming back to the stage, the incomparable Laura Gentili, founder of ESPnW. Hello, my love. Also, Vice President of ESPnW Marketing and Female Audience Expansion, Rachel Epstein. Also known as the woman who has been doing everything the last 3 days. We're so excited to bring our newest member of the team, Vice President of ESPnW, Susie Petrowski. Go here. Also brought some really big rave energy to the party last night, which we appreciated so much, Susie.
They know.
And last but certainly not least, undoubtedly, the flyest woman here, executive producer and vice president of ESPN Films and ESPN Original Content, Marcia Cook. Let's go, Marsh. Told you. And a good morning to our streaming audience as well. We're so glad that you're hanging with us. It's a little earlier for you on the East Coast, so we'll wrap things up today. But I want to start, sort of with some of the conversation, Rachel's, that we've been having here during this entire summit, right? Which is about how we're creating change, what we're doing for audience expansion. Since our time at the last summit, what have you seen for the ESPnW brand?
I mean, it's been a year of really great growth, like so many of us in this space are experiencing. Probably going back to our summit in May, which in New York City, which is really only our second in-person summit. That was sold out, over 1 million streams. So we continue to see that these experiences, like this event here, are sort of the very best expression of the W brand. They really bring it to life, and we like to think, and hope you agree, that they've become really important moments on the sports calendar to bring this community together, to learn from each other, to drive change and progress together. So we're super excited that we're going to Canada next year, and proud to announce the espnW Summit Toronto, presented by Canadian Tire.
Yes.
Soon,
Going north.
more summits.
Go.
Going north, more summits. So excited about that. And then Kareem talked about this the first night, but 50/50 was another really important moment. Obviously, the entire initiative honoring the stories of Title IX was super important, but in the initiative, we launched our first W Studios content. And W Studios, we also announced at the last year's summit, and the premise there is really just to do more women-centered storytelling, to serve female audiences more more fully, with women at the center, sort of behind the camera, in front of the camera, and be really intentional about that. And so in 50/50, those first 5 short films that we produced in partnership with Kate Johnson and her fantastic Google team.
What's up, Kate?
They were helmed by Allison Glock. They were fantastic shorts. And they sort of proved, we're super excited, right? They proved the thesis true. These primarily streamed on YouTube, on ESPN's YouTube page. And that YouTube page is sort of typically, I think it's typically 19% female audience. And these amazing short films were 45% female. So it's sort of, we know we're onto something here, that women are hungry for these kinds of stories. I know Marsha's going to talk about that a little bit more. But we're really excited about W Studios. And then I did just want to announce that the That's a W brand campaign, which you've seen quite a bit here, I'm sure. We also launched that at last year's summit, and just this week, it's taken great hold. We're super excited about it. Galvanized, I think, internally the company and our community. And then just in Monday Night Football this past week, we launched our next spot in the campaign, and I think we have it here to take a look at.
Can you see? Okay, get down low.
Or not?
Okay.
No, definitely.
Feels like we're onto something. Feels like a change is coming. Feels like a change is coming.
Let's go.
We are.
That's a W.
We are super proud of that work. It's funny, people are like, oh, you have a brand campaign. How come you didn't have it sooner? You're like, well, things take time, and we didn't have the idea. So shout out to Arts and Letters and the folks who are here who put this together for us. It's just a really great stamp. I mean, as Rachel mentioned, it's basically just means that was really cool. That's a W. So we love it, and it serves us really well, and especially as you know, that's a W hashtag.
Yeah, we've been asking you all, right, to post your pictures from the summit with hashtag that's a W. And I think all of you understand we'd be remiss to talk about any conversation with growth and expansion and not talk about the impact social media has as well, Laura.
Yeah, it's been enormous for us. And at ESPN, Katie Daly oversees our entire social media team, has done a fabulous job. And we've just seen, tremendous growth. One thing Katie committed to, and we talked about this, you have to make a commitment and then stick to it. We have doubled the amount of women's sports content across our key handles, ESPN and SportsCenter. And you know what? The world didn't end. ESPN and the SportsCenter handle and accounts keep growing. And then when you talk about the ESPnW specific accounts, this is just phenomenal growth for us. Again, this is the result of incredible commitment and resources, and just again that stick-to-itiveness to say, hey, we're gonna just focus on these handles, put resources behind them, and look at this growth. I mean, 1.8 million followers. That was a dream, 10 years ago, and just the number of engagements, that's really critical for us. It's just the women interacting and being a part of the conversation, and we do see social as just this blank canvas for us. Like, we were able to just say what we wanted to say and own the space and put women forward. And it's really been fabulous for us. And similar to what we saw on YouTube, the audience on all our W handles is predominantly female. And again, typically across ESPN platforms, linear, digital, it's 30-70. It's 30% women, 70% male. And on a good day, maybe it's 35%. But then you create specific platforms for women, And as we said, they come and they feel like this is their home and they see themselves. And it's our voices and it's our accomplishments. But across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, over 60% female. So that's a space we've created from scratch, and we're really, really proud of it.
As you should be.
And we always have a good sizzle. We can't help expressing ourselves other than in sizzle.
We're TV people.
We just want to just share a little bit of our social story with you, real quick.
Parker, I'd like to say hi. I love you, girl.
Continuing to rewrite the record books.
Sweet.
Just a little taste of what we do on ESPN. If you want to see the rest, just download the app. So obviously there's a lot of momentum, and we talk about that as well, and have been talking about it for days, inertia, right, and how we sort of capitalize. And that's why we're so excited, Susie, because I've got to say, Susie taking over vice president, newly named for ESPnW, if you attack this job with the same vigor that you attacked kickball yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, this is Susie yesterday during a kickball match. This is a walk-off home. Well, this wasn't a walk-off. You tied up the game here with a home run. Susie was that kid, who is the coach's, right, kid, and the coach is like, hey, you're better than everyone, so just, if it's within 25 yards of you, you need to run and catch it. And she did. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, we won. So,
you know what they say, age
Team
is just
we
a
kick
number.
balls, yeah.
Just a number.
She was out there dominating it. But just give us a little background, Susie, on sort of who you are and what got you to this point.
Yeah. So, I started my career in traditional men's sport, and oftentimes I was told I was a little too much and I should stay in my lanes. I'm sure no one here has ever heard that. And then I had an opportunity to go lead sponsorship sales for the NWSL. And at that time, I couldn't have named 4 teams in the league. And I really kind of had this moment within my own career where I thought, can I work within a space where I can make true, meaningful, equitable impact, and can I help define an industry? So I was a little opportunistic, but now, we're still in the infancy of women's sports. We're still in the infancy of this space, and I saw a tremendous opportunity to go and educate the marketplace and really kind of talk that shit, because female athletes are athletes, and we're mothers, and women aren't monolithic, and we have an opportunity to be blacker and browner and gayer and more inclusive, and for me, it was a no-brainer to pivot into a space that allowed me to live that every day.
I love that you keep saying opportunistic, opportunity. Where do you think the most opportunity lies?
Yeah, another great question. I think you peel away sports from this, and it's equity, it's human beings. So we're in 2022, and we're really going to have someone look over at us and say, you get less. Your starting line was different, and you still get less. No, we ain't about that anymore. So for me, the real opportunity is going into rooms, being the squeakiest wheel, talking about the real viable business opportunity that exists within women's sport. We can make money. Put us where we deserve to be, and watch what we do. People are now demanding content. People are demanding live events. So for me, it's just kind of creating a true equitable space, and I talk frequently about accountability and accessibility. So we, as a media platform, partners, it's all about accountability. How are we going to invest in women's sport? How are we going to invest in women? And accessibility. So, you might be a casual football fan, but on Sundays you probably have football on your TV. How in the next, X years can we make sure women's sports are truly accessible? And the barrier to entry has always been so high for the women's sports fan. So you reward them with a little bit more attention, a little bit more accessibility, and we're already seeing it. We're seeing revenue, we're seeing viewership, we're seeing everything start to change. So it's really about kind of, again, talking that talk, because at long last, people really have to listen.
I love too that Susie, if you haven't had an opportunity to chat with Susie while we've been here, when she's not dominating at kickball or starting a rave, she's asking a lot of questions. I can see that you're trying to like get the lay of the land and you want to know more and you're being inquisitive. And so I would say that is tantamount to a great leader. So thank you, Susie. And I want to talk a little bit more with you, Marcia, in the 30 for 30 space, in the film space. Where do we have some? I think we have some like announcements. I love announcements. Marcia, tell us more.
Okay, no pressure.
Yeah.
So we have a little film.
Okay.
A
little
It's
film.
actually, I think, a very important project for us, for W Studios. It's our first feature film. Google Shorts launched W Studios, but this is our feature, and it is the story of Candace Parker. And
Heard of her.
WNBA great, and all around wonderful human being. And this film will provide you with an intimate look into her life, which is not just about sport. She's a wife, she's a mom. It's a much more full story of a human being. And she's given us unbelievable access. And it's a contemporary story, which for many of us in film, we are steeped in nostalgia, which is a good thing. But then you also need to find those stories that are of the moment. And this is an example of that. She is the perfect intersection. And what I hope for W Studios is that magical intersection between culture and sport. And I think that it will excite and delight you. And I hope you'll watch.
I love that too, because I feel like, Marcia, we talked about this. I mean, how long have we known who Candace Parker is? Like 100 years, right? I mean, she came into our purview when she was a college kid. She's one of the greatest college basketball players of all time. We've known her what feels like her whole life, but there's still so much about her that we don't know that we're just discovering. And I love that, W Studios is allowing us an opportunity to do just that.
Yeah, that's a critical insight. I mean, right? Flora mentioned it, but just telling these richer, deeper stories about these athletes in a way that only you can and only we can, right?
Mm-hmm. I think that that's the beauty of this opportunity, because Candace, as an example, we think we know her, but yet we don't.
Yeah.
And I think that that has been the lineage of so many of the great films, because we are extraordinary storytellers, that you think you know something, and then we open the aperture wider so that you have a much fuller view and understanding of whether it be that person, that sport, that franchise. But in this instance, she has lived her life unapologetically, but there are so many aspects to her life that she's never shared. So she is a perfect character for us to put W Studios on the map and plant our flag and say this is where, as a continuum, great storytelling happens, and you will come away feeling like you've learned something more about this particular individual. So super excited.
And W Studios allows us to go beyond anniversaries. We get to tell these deeper stories. And I'll quote Haley Rosen's gotten some love here, but empowerment is the byproduct. It's not the goal. And empowered women empower women. So we get to tell that story and go beyond kind of what historically has been told and shown of women. And again, really show the depth beyond. And W Studios is another one of those resources that allows us to really kind of grow the broader footprint.
I also would be remiss. I'm a little bit of a company woman, but again, I've heard this podcast, and so I need you to hear it. A reminder that also in the 30 for 30 podcast space, we do have Pink Card coming, which is incredible. And if you missed that conversation, I imagine, am I tossing to something that's not real? I imagine there'll be a recap and an opportunity to find it somewhere in the interwebs. That's coming as well in the next few weeks. So continue to support. Ladies, thank you so much.
Yeah, Elle, I just want to add too. I mean, I just couldn't be more proud of this team that we've assembled here. We're definitely taking it to the next level. And between Susie and Rachel and Marcia, we just keep adding firepower. We just keep adding smarts and savvy and killer instinct. And so, again, and you're all a part of this team. I mean, you see this growth. Many of you have been with us from the beginning. So thank you very much. But we just keep adding resources and going to keep making this bigger and better. So thank you all.
Onward and upward.
Well, Elle, I got to say one thing. I'm a salesperson at heart, so every brand, every agency person, we are open for business. So that accountability is coming at you.
Put a ring on that thing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Marsha. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Laura. All right. I don't think that I'm supposed to, yeah, no, the couches are staying. Perfect. With that, we are going to get our first panel of the morning. We've got a couple of panels for you. They're going to be dynamic. We've got breakfast, and we will have lunch to go. So for anyone that has to bounce, don't worry. Of course, if you're at the streaming audience, just stay put. So I'm going to bring up my girl. What a fantastic conversation yesterday between Not This Firecracker at All and St. Vincent. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Espana. Yes! Oh my God, where's Becky?
Regulators. We regulate any stealing of his property.
If you weren't there last night, you missed out.
You can't be any geek.
Becky Hammond took herself a nice nap and showed back up to throw down. We had a little rap battle to regulate and a couple other songs. And then she sidled up to me later. I've just realized you're my karaoke nemesis. So we have some future battles planned, is all I'm saying. Last night was fun. Can you hear my party voice? Yeah. I can never hide it when I have a good time. It always shows up in my voice. I'm super excited for the next panel. And, you know, I know at least a couple of these ladies. One I was moderating panel with just last week in New York. Another I've been working on the Gatorade Women's Advisory Board with. So I feel really comfortable that I'm going to get to really pick their brains for the best stuff and bring you the secrets of their success and potentially the lessons from their failures as well. People like to skip over that stuff, but that can be really important to helping us figure out how to keep achieving leadership positions. So let's start with my gal from Gatorade, Carolyn Braff, a seasoned brand strategist who has driven innovation, consumer engagement, and go-to-market programming since joining Gatorade in 2013. She was named head of brand strategy in 2021, where she leads Gatorade's marketing efforts across its portfolio of products and sits on the Women's Advisory Board. She got her BA from Columbia and an MBA from the University of Chicago Booth. Carolyn. Look at those luscious curls.
Yeah, we roll.
Gorgeous. Kia Clark is CEO of the New York Liberty, where she leads and manages all business aspects of the organization, including strategic planning, revenue, P&L, and operations. She works with stakeholders on key elements of team business, including growing the fan base, maximizing sales and fan engagement, and improving business performance. She held several positions over her 12 years with the team prior to being named CEO, and she was a basketball player, got her degree in marketing at Canisius, then a master's in sports business from NYU. Kia. Woo! She was trying to get the cuff it dance going night one.
I think
Were you there last night? We got it done.
We got it done again.
Kathy Carter is the CEO of LA28, overseeing games delivery, impact, and operations. Prior to being named CEO, she led the commercial efforts for Team USA and the LA28 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Joined the organization in October of 2018. Only the third woman in the history of the Games to lead an Olympic and Paralympic organization committee, previously at Soccer United Marketing, Major League Soccer's commercial subsidiary. She was also a soccer player at William & Mary, Wise Woman of the Year, two-time Sports Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award, Crane's 40 Under 40, and Forbes' list of the most powerful women in sports. Kathy. These are some serious resumes. Renee Anderson, NFL Chief Revenue Officer and Executive VP of NFL Partnerships, oversees the league's partnership divisions, including sponsorship, new business, consumer products, and media sales. Also responsible for all media sales for the league's owned and operated media assets, which include the NFL Network and NFL Digital Media, as well as their business in legalized sports betting. Joined the NFL in 2006 after 9 seasons at the Arena Football League. Graduated from Ole Miss with a degree in journalism, a Hall of Fame honoree of the SBJ 40 Under 40, SBJ honoree as a game changer in sports and entertainment, and a 2016 Wise Woman of the Year. Renee. And we're out of time.
Okay.
So excited to talk to all of you. So excited for us to learn from you, because I feel like a theme throughout a lot of conversations from this week has been the work of the people and the desire of the people to make change, and then butting up against people in leadership who don't see things the same way. but that's y'all. So we got to figure out how to get more of you and also figure out the secrets of how you got there. So Kia, I want to start with you. And if you can think of, one quality or skill set that you think best explains how you got where you are and how you maintain your position as a woman leader in sport.
Just one thing, I have to say, first of all, this has been just a remarkable couple days here in Ojai Valley, and I've had so many thoughts about how did I get here and what are the things that got me here. And I thought about the fact that I'm actually from Connecticut, a little town not far from Bristol. And every time I was on the yellow cheese bus traveling for some sports team to play Bristol Central or play Bristol Eastern, I would pass by ESPN. And a little nugget in the back of my mind always, thought that that was my window to professional sports. That was my window to sort of what could be. And I think, just keeping that and sort of tucking it away has been that special thing for me. It's always been about the journey and getting to the next step and taking on maybe sometimes what isn't the ideal position or what you thought it was going to be in the beginning, but just sort of trudging through and learning from it. So I think that's really the skill, is like being uncomfortable and getting through something that maybe might feel uncomfortable, and then using that to take a step forward.
Yeah, because you had that vision that was out in front of you the whole time. So even if this is a side detour, I'll take it. I still know where I'm going.
Absolutely.
Kathy, how was your experience as a D1 athlete instrumental in shaping how you see your leadership style?
Well, I learned pretty early on you can't win by yourself. I mean, obviously there are sports where you can, but it.
He tried.
Yeah, but for me it was, and I'm still so in touch, and I was having conversations with many people who have a similar experience where. Coming out of a locker room and having your teammates, boy, they are the people that can totally keep your feet on the ground and are the ones the first to be there to support you and the first to be there to, quite frankly, knock you down when you need to be knocked down in a good way. But so for me, there is no I in team, and that is certainly just totally incorporated into my DNA as it relates to then how I actually manage an organization and a group and the like. So for me, it was there's no separation between my experience as an athlete and my experience as a professional.
Rini, it's an incredible achievement to get so far, and not just a male-dominated company, but the NFL. And I wonder what your message is for young women who aspire to be in leadership positions. The balance between putting in the work and just being great versus understanding relationship building and strategizing.
Yeah, it's funny, Sarah. Like, I never really knew these jobs existed as I mean, other than like your job, what Sarah does, what Hannah does. Like, that was like working in sports, like that or Jerry Maguire, right? So who knew that these were even a thing? And I know kids they apply in college now. This is where you major in sponsorship or whatever. And part of me, I think I've always been a little naive, which is probably good. And with my growth at the NFL and just thinking about if there's an opportunity, I always raise my hand, I always try to find solve a problem that was there. But I think part of the success that I get the credit for, but is really about the team. And because of that, it was helpful for me on building those relationships at the NFL and probably at all of our organizations. Having the relationships internally that really trust is important throughout the entire organization, because in our side, on the revenue side, we can't be successful if we don't work well with our event department, our finance department. And by the way, those are the guys that never get the credit. Like, we got a lot of really great accolades, which was nice when you read those, but those aren't because Rini did these amazing things. It's because the team that included those people in finance and in legal, and really being able to lean in and help celebrate their achievements as a part of that, I think has been something that I'm so thankful for and has helped me get to this point today.
And I think that balance, like, it doesn't matter if you know all the right people if you don't know your bleep. But if you do know your bleep and you haven't done the work of strategizing, sometimes you get left behind. And that's not right, but it's an inevitability.
Well, and by the way, like, knowing what you don't know, you got to be really self-aware. Like, I'm horrible at math. It's not my thing. Like, it never has been. And like, and I know that. And so it's one of those where it's like, I've got finance is lockstep with me all the time.
Is revenue the one with the numbers?
Yeah. I can make it. I just don't add. I don't need to be the one adding it up. Percentages are the worst, other than like, move the decimal and all that stuff. But like, I think that there are so many people that are behind the scenes that, again, make the business run, that often don't get the credit. And so really understanding their goals and their expectations and working side by side really just helps everybody move things forward.
Carolyn, you were the only woman at your first 3 jobs. The only woman. So, like it or not, that sort of set you up with this mentality of there can be only one.
Yep.
How were you able to shed that conditioning and shift to deciding that you wanted to uplift and carry and bring along other women?
Yeah, it wasn't particularly fun to be the only one. I also was in a lot of places where there wasn't a women's bathroom, which was just weird, right? They didn't think that they would need a facility for women to go to the bathroom during the course of a college football game. That seems odd to me. Yeah, the commentary, maybe you should show a little bit more leg, like that stuff wasn't fun. You want somebody to talk to you about that. You want somebody next to you, who doesn't have to go through this with you, but can show that, you're not there because you're a woman, you're there because you're good at what you do. And so the minute I had the opportunity to bring up other people who are really good at what they do and not just check a box or fill a seat, I'm gonna do that all day.
But was it hard? Did you have to, because it's easy for all of us to say there's plenty of room at the table. It's not about the one seat that just cycles in one woman who replaces another woman who replaces another. But if the people above you don't see it that way, you're kind of SOL.
Or if I don't see it that way, right? My first mid-year review at Gatorade, the commentary was, you can take it down a notch, right? Like maybe ask people how their weekend was before you jump in on the project. And that mentality had stayed with me of like, if she's at the table, I can't be at the table, so I gotta be better than her. So I don't care how her weekend was, we gotta get this out the door. And so hearing that feedback and hearing it and internalizing it and looking around, and at that point at Gatorade, the entire leadership team was women. And so seeing that and understanding that I could be that, right? That's why you can't be what you can't see, but I could see it. So as long as I opened my eyes and saw that at Gatorade, and then there has been this kind of massive shift where at one point there were no women on the leadership team, but understanding I have to be that for other people because the next girl who comes in and didn't have a female colleague needs to see that it's not me or you. Like we're all gonna get better if we do this together.
I want to ask that of all of you, actually, and Rena, we'll start down at your end. How do you handle it if you are in rooms or spaces where it feels like, fairly or not, a woman has been hired to check a box and that the actual ethos there is not believing that there could be more women filling that space?
Yeah, it's funny. I think when we were doing some prep, I again, sometimes never really think about that. I always, for me, thought, oh God, they're gonna know I'm Southern. Like, I hope they don't notice. like that was sort of a little bit of my insecurity. But there is a bit, especially, we have some amazing women at the National Football League that are making the most important decisions about football on the field, and not in what I would call, someone's like, oh, the female jobs. I'm like, what do you mean, like the hospitality specialists? Like, what are those? And like, we have women in football, we have women in production, we have women, obviously in legal and in finance and IT that are leading and making decisions. And I hope, and again, that we're not spending time just checking a box, because we're all competitors. Everybody here, we all work in a space of competition. We love it, right? We love it to watch it on the field, on the court. And that's so true even in the boardroom. But I don't want to compete. I don't want to compete with Kathy if we're sitting at the table. Mm-hmm. And look, it happens. Sometimes women can be the worst to other women, and shame on them when they happen. But hopefully that encouragement with those that truly stuff. And that's hired. There's a moment in my career where I hadn't been promoted to EVP, but someone was like, well, maybe I don't want a fake chief. We got enough chiefs. I want to be like, when I'm in E, there's 11 of us, and there's 2 women, and the rest of them are a bunch of guys, and they're great, whatever. But I want to earn it because, man, I know my stuff, and I will say that I believe that my colleagues trust in me because I do know my stuff, and that we have that mutual respect. And so I think when someone new comes in and they're a woman, there's always, I think more so than a man when they're new, like, oh, do they really know? Yeah. And that's just mentality. But hopefully those of us that are at the table can help make sure that doesn't happen.
Kathy, what about you?
Well, I'll pick up a couple things that you talked about. I mean, first of all, I think it was very different when today is different than when we were coming up. Yeah, I mean, as evidenced by this right here. This did not exist, and I think Laura and others were just talking about that. So I mean, the idea of see it, you can be it, which I think is really, really a telling. There was nothing for us to see.
It's all meant like.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm thankful too. I
had absolutely.
Great
had some great mentors and
give me opportunities.
Sponsors and all the rest of it. Yep, absolutely. But we definitely had to figure out what our secret power was. And I think to some degree I had probably a handful of secret powers. Number one is I was never going to shy away from doing the hard work. And so like what you said, where you said there's never a project that you're not willing to lean into, and that gave me a breadth and opportunity to see a ton of stuff. I think then number two, I was a really talented cocktailer when I was early on, and I'm not going to I owned it, man, and I actually learned how to hang with the guys. I also knew I sometimes didn't. I learned that eventually how to say no to the last one.
People didn't learn that last night.
Yeah, exactly. And so I learned how, and that was just one of the things because I grew up in sales. And so the idea to be out, I always knew not to go certain places and do certain things, but I figured out how to be a part of the conversation. And I was always the first one up in the morning. I was always the one out for the run. I was the last one to close down the bar. And I learned how to be present. At a time when they may or may not have wanted me to be present. And so that became an opportunity and that to then be involved in a lot of things. Fast forward where we are today, and I look at what so many of these wonderful people are doing, and all of you all, I mean, my goodness, are we making some change happen? And so I've always felt that our opportunity here is to pay it forward and to make it better for the next generation. And so I know now that I'm in a leadership position, and I've got a terrific network of women that didn't exist before. And I think we are so much better today than when I was growing up in the business of actually having the sisterhood. It's real. Like, Rini is my sister. There is never one time that I have called her and said, hey, I need, that she didn't say, okay. I didn't even get out what it was. It was
start asking for tickets.
Yeah, well, but to be fair,
we're sisters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Yeah, but so I think that's good, and then we're putting more women around the table. So whether it's when Rini's got a choice or when I have a choice, I know right now the leadership team of the organization that I manage, we're over 50% women at leadership. We're 60% women across the entirety of the organization. So, and that's not because we want to do that. That's because we're damn good.
Right. And that's the key, is that the work is there, the talent is there. But Kia, that doesn't always mean that people above have gotten past antiquated ideas of what leadership should look like, in what form it looks like. So how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different for me because I have the benefit of working in women's sports. And I think for us, in the WNBA, we always perform well in terms of gender equity and roles and positions at every level, from the league office to the union to all of the teams. But it then becomes about this collective spirit and that sisterhood that we're all discussing, where, for the teams that are shared with NBA, it is about having your bleep together collectively. And there's strength. There's at least one 10-year-old in the audience, I know. So I appreciate the bleeps. It's about collectively us, sort of showcasing and demonstrating that, this is about talent. It's not about gender alone. But, when you're promoting, you're marketing, you're amplifying, and you're lifting up women athletes, it makes all the difference for there to be women in the room and really be able to speak about it authentically.
Carolyn, talk to me, speaking about putting women in a room to get stuff done. The Women's Advisory Board at Gatorade and their recent investment in equitable representation and sponsorships.
Yeah, so last year we launched a campaign that we're calling Fuel Tomorrow. That is our commitment to leave sport better than we found it. We did a ton of research on different verticals. If you look at gender, LGBTQ status, race, socioeconomic, there are the barriers to getting and keeping kids in sports are the exact same for all of those communities. There's 5 of them. And we decided as a company we're going to spend some time now trying to break down those barriers. Yes, it's the right thing to do. I really believe America's a better place when kids are playing sports, but it's a really easy business solve when you look at a company that is predicated on people drinking sports drinks. You need people playing sports. Right, and there are so many kids dropping out of sports, particularly girls. The dropout rate is terrible. So if you're not filling that funnel with athletes, we don't have a business in 10 years, right? So this wasn't a hard sell of like, do the right thing, get more kids playing sports. This was ensure the future of our business. So when we looked at that, and then we looked specifically at girls, the way you show up in terms of breaking down resource constraints for girls, showing role models that make sense for girls, removing the pressure of sport for girls, it's nuanced to how you do it for boys. And we wanted to make sure that we had a group of people that was going to hold us accountable to the decisions we were making and the places we were showing up, whether that's our athlete roster, who we're putting in commercials, even the types of camps and tournaments that we invest in. We reach about 5 million kids every year with some sort of message at, a softball camp, a cheerleading camp. How do we make sure we're over-investing in girls' camps? Because by pure numbers, anytime you do a football camp, it's much bigger than a softball camp, right? So you have to work hard to get more girls. So we said, let's put a group of women in the room together that are going to hold us accountable. And Sarah said yes, mostly because she likes to tell me what to do. But it was really, really helpful when you put ideas out there and people are like, that's not good enough. And it's people who know this space. It's people who can connect you with other people. We can't do it all ourselves. We have 5 amazing nonprofit partners that we work with. But having ladies like Sarah introduce us to those nonprofit partners and say, like, there's research going on at the Tucker Center. Did you know that? Let me introduce you to Nicole Lavoie, and together you guys can really make a big difference. So we lean on this board a lot. We show them ad copy. We show them names we're going after for roster athletes. We're working on something for Bring Your Daughter to Work Day that we could showcase all of the careers in sports like this that we didn't know existed, right, when we were younger. But how do we make that a really easy Zoom link that everyone in America can join and say, oh my gosh, there's all these different places. When my playing days are done, here's a way for me to continue to stay in sports, and that will help keep them playing longer and thinking about what it means to play longer.
It's been awesome. I've loved being on the board, and the conversations, end up taking back to ESPNW and other spaces that I'm in. A lot of it's just me and Renee Montgomery telling everybody it's got to be fire. Like,
it's true.
Cover's got to be fire. Like, women got to be fabulous and fierce and fire. Speaking of, Kathy, you said on our call about the Olympics, women kick significant ass. That is a data point. And it's a space where we see the same investment, promotion, quality and amount of coverage, storytelling, and the results are massive. It is exactly what we always say. If you build it, they will come. If you tell them the stakes, the stars, the stats, the stories, they will become invested in these female athletes. Are there secrets from the Olympics that other spaces could steal to help grow women's sports?
Well, I think you mentioned storytelling. First of all, when we put this in perspective, and I think Julie was talking a little bit about Title IX. I mean, last night, when we think about Title IX and the impact that has had on women's participation, our U.S. women's Olympic and Paralympic teams are without question the actual banner for Title IX. And it has created really what happens in the rest of the world, because the United States of women, in most Summer Olympic Games, and we'll just stay on that, are typically 3, 4, or 5 on the medal count. Just the women. Let that sink in. More than 206 nations come to compete in the Summer Olympic Games, and our U.S. women's national team, of the aggregate of Team USA, will be 3, 4, or 5 most times on the medal count. That's just shockingly amazing. But and I think that flipped over. But part of that is because there's just so much more opportunity, and because we now as a society have actually both taken the opportunity because girls in sport is good, and policy as it related to Title IX, and that has now resulted in us having this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. The stories are no different. The stories about the athletes and perseverance are no different for men than they are for women. But in the Olympics, because these storylines are across all these great different sports, they are featuring them and they're driving ratings, which is driving. But what's interesting to me is, and I'll shout out to the women of 1999, but really 96 in Atlanta. At that time, our U.S. women, first time the soccer team played in the gold medal. Actually, it was the first time there was actually soccer in the Olympic Games, and our women played. And the coverage of that final match, sold out stadium in Athens, Georgia, and they couldn't even get not 5 minutes of the game on television, and they couldn't actually show the medals being given to our athletes because they just didn't believe that it would drive engagement with the audience. Fast forward, Tokyo 2020, which was obviously 2021, and I was in many conversations where there was a conversation about how to feature the U.S. women's national team on the coverage for the Olympic Games. And I'm doing the math, which I didn't, like Rini, I wasn't very good at, but I'm like, we've come a long way. So we got to keep putting our shoulder into it. We got to keep finding ways to give voices and to bring those stories to light. The Olympics and the Paralympics are a wonderful platform and we are trying very hard to make it more than an episodic event, which is the 17 days, let's say, of the Olympics. And how do we actually create more storylines from a flame to flame? But that's what Kia's doing here with the Liberty and certainly what they're doing with the NWSL and many others.
And gymnastics too, on like stuff like ESPN. It's growing so much.
Without question.
I love the saying "flame to flame." That's so much cooler than just year to year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start using that, but talking about ex-lovers.
Yeah.
Rini, you said you get a lot of questions that your male counterparts don't get. How do you balance having kids and a career? And they're meanwhile being asked, like, are you ready to take over as the next commissioner? So how do you change the perceptions and stereotypes in little ways or big ways by everyday actions or conversations in your office?
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about this. Like, I'm sure some of my colleagues, they never get asked, like, how do you work-life balance? And then literally, like no one's asking Roger Goodell, like, how are you balancing work-life balance, right? They're asking you, like, how are you going to get more millions of dollars from the next television distribution, or, how are you going to expand on the moon or something like that? And so it's interesting. There's a part of me, though, that I'm proud of the balance, because I do, and I want to own it in a way where I don't have to talk about it. But for other women that are coming up, if that's something that's a real concern, I always want to talk about it. But I find that I've been on a lot of panels lately that have just been business panels. I mean, like one you and I did last week. I mean, Sarah and I are making the panel circuit on the road.
Sisters.
Yeah, we're sisters. But it was about the fluid fan, and I was on a panel with Amy Howe, who's the CEO of FanDuel, and we were talking sports betting. We actually weren't talking about being women. However, at the end, the guy's like, isn't it crazy? They were talking about business, and we didn't even bring up that you guys are women. I'm like, well, you just brought it up. Like, it was so great. And then it's like, it's like right down. And so I think it's a little bit, it's just going to take some time on that. But I also want to encourage those of you that do have questions about, like, can you have this job? Like, thankfully, like, my kids, I have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. They don't really know the difference. They don't know, like, I have, like, sent them to school when there's, like, no school. Like, it's a holiday. And I'm like, what do you mean it's Christmas? Like, I'm in the office. Like, what's going on? I mean, sports happen on...
We got 4 games today.
Right, what are you talking about? Sports happen on weekends and holidays. Get your butt to school. But they don't know the difference. We were actually talking, we were walking by those beautiful gardens over there, and I'm like, oh, I like the idea of gardening. It's a little bit like, what are you willing to sacrifice? Like, I don't garden. I mean, I follow a bunch of influencers that, like, have these amazing gardens that are built up high with a big house on them, and they're picking their gardens out. I'm like, I'm gonna do that. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna order Instacart instead.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what are you willing to sacrifice? And so there's a part of it where I don't want to come into the office and have, like, this look of, like, oh my God, the burden of being a mom and life has been so crazy. So then they start treating me differently. And so it's important that I'm cool about it when I'm in the office, but I'm also want others to know that it's hard. But you kind of just figure out what works for you. And again, like, send your kids to school whenever. They'll be fine.
Somebody will be there.
You remember when we were kids, though? You remember the old commercial that you can bring home the bacon fried up in the pan? This whole idea that you could have it all? I think we've had to say, no, actually, you can't. You have to make some choices.
You can't have it all.
You have to
And
make
that's
choices.
okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
absolutely.
But it's up to you, not everybody
100%.
else, to tell you can't have it all.
That's
You pick
exactly right.
where and when. Rini, I want to talk quickly about feeling in those spaces also that you have to be an advocate for women and to stand for more than just yourself, because the NFL does have high profile scandals and some issues relating to male-female dynamics. And I imagine it's hard to go into an office and feel like you have to represent women or maybe even defy stereotypes about working for the NFL itself.
It's funny. I was in a meeting once with some colleagues, and they're like, Rini, you don't have to always be the spokesperson for women. And I was like, okay. One of you guys gonna go out there? Because it's a little bit of. I remember so I've been here almost 17 seasons, and there was one point a senior executive decided to start a women's group, and he decided to do it because he's got a wife and kids and daughters, and he was like, I just love women, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I don't feel it's a burden. Like, I want to be there because I'm so proud of the women that work there. There was a moment during COVID that I'd mentioned this, that a story had been written about the Washington football team and all of the misbehavior that had been happening there that is awful for the women that had worked there. But part of the story talked about how there were no senior women at the National Football League, and it just pissed me off because it was so dismissive for the women that do work there. And it doesn't matter if you're a coordinator or if you're an executive vice president. Everybody has a moment in their career where you have an opportunity to grow, and it made me angry because it's like there are not only it's like. Can men be dismissive at the table? But like, here is a reporter who had done all this work, like done so much work to write this story, but it was so dismissive to all of my colleagues that are busting their butts every day, making some of the most important decisions in the game of football. And so I feel like it's a responsibility, but also an honor for me to be able to help influence and represent the women. And look, we're not going to be able, I'm not, things are going to happen. You've got 1,800 players. You've got some amazing men that do some awesome things on the field and off the field. And then you have some guys like Deshaun Watson who don't. And I'm just as outraged as everybody else, but it's a business, right? And so I want to help support the women that work there, be proud of what we do. We put on the product every day, but also there's a reality of what we can and can't do. We can't, I don't have a vote. I'm not an owner. I can't decide if someone has the ability or the privilege to own a team. I can't decide if someone's going to be playing on the field or not. But I can be there for support for those women that work there. Then I hope I am. We got a lot of awesome women that are here today that also do that. It's not just me. And so there are a lot of really great, strong women that do that. But I'm proud to do it. And it is like, when it was said to me, like, well, you don't have to be that. I'm like, well, okay. So who's doing it? And so, but I'm happy. I'm happy I have that opportunity.
I mean, that's a great moment though to tell them. I look forward to you then speaking up on behalf of these issues in the meetings, right? And let's see if you do it. Kia, you were the only employee left after the New York Liberty was sold by MSG. First of all, before I even move on, what is the secret to being kept when everyone else? I mean, everyone's gone and they're like, you can stay.
Oh, I wish I had a real answer for that.
Blackmail?
Not at all. Not at all. You know, that time in my life, which seems like an eternity ago now, was one of the most complex, but also most rewarding of any situation I ever thought I'd find myself in from a career standpoint. I was new to leadership, and I'm walking into the boardroom with mergers and acquisitions, legal, finance, all men, and then across the table, there's prospective buyers. And I'm new to leadership, as I said, so in that moment, internally, it became like, it's go time. You're in here for a reason, and this is the reason. It was about shepherding the legacy of the team. I had been around for a long time. I had learned from the best of who had been running the team and the players who started the team as the pioneers. And really, it was just an exercise in telling the story of an original team in the WNBA and really upholding what the tenets of the business looked like, but also who the players were and why this is an attractive thing and something that should be invested in and something that should continue on in New York City. So, you know, that internal feeling felt like, you know, just completely inspiring. And then as it started to progress and I thought about the next step, once the team was sold, we had pissed off a lot of New Yorkers. You know, you take the team and you move them, you know, in the area around New York, from Newark to Westchester, you know, the Garden, and now Brooklyn. It was a lot. And, you know, I think we all have been in those positions where, you know that your company has done something, and it may be client-based, it may be customer-based, it may be fan-based, but, you know, how are you going to react to it? So I was sort of already thinking about that, you know, initiative and what it was going to take in order to rebuild and realign the meaning of the team. And it was then that I was like, okay, I need a team that was completely diverse, that really was focused on the purpose. Why do we need to exist? Why do we have to represent for these women athletes? Why do they need to be in New York? And so I was afforded this incredible opportunity to build the team. So maybe it was trust that I was, you know, the only employee. There actually was one account executive that did travel along with us. But it was, you know, the best situation to be in because I could really get granular about what our needs were. And I could really be intentional about looking for talented women of color, getting people who were going to step up to the plate and really align with us for something that we didn't know at that moment that we were going to move to Barclays Center. So it was this huge trust factor, and it was, you know, my first lesson in building a culture. And these are the lessons, and these are things that are going to take me for the second half of my career.
First, I love that there wasn't like a secret sauce to sticking around. It was that you authentically and passionately were able to speak to the value of it to the new owners. And they were like, "That well, we need her because she's the one who gets it, right?" And then after that, you're building this team. You know, it was actually a Gatorade Women's Advisory Board panel where somebody asked me like how to be a better ally. And I randomly have always thought of Andy Murray. Stick with me here because Andy Murray can be doing a presser after a game, regardless of the topic, and he will remember to correct people if they say that a man was the first to do something. He'll say, well, and Serena first. He'll be in spaces that are not about something, and he will still advocate for people in marginalized communities. I think women do that so well as leaders because we're so used to not being thought of if we're not in the room. What advice do you have for the men in this room or for women in this room that can take this back to their spaces, for the people that don't think those things through in those meetings, for the leaders who aren't considering diversity and how those voices might make your product better?
It has to happen. It's the only way that we get to excellence. Like if you have a homogenous boardroom, if you have a homogenous, every single meeting, everyone looks the same, you're not reaching your top potential. You need all of that lived experience. You need different perspectives. You need people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouths, and you need people who pulled up their bootstraps and worked for it. And that's the beautiful part, I think, of sports, because we're lending our voices, we're amplifying players, but mostly we're dealing with the people. They come to you for joy, for entertainment, for happiness, and that means something different depending on where you come from. So that's where, you know, if you're not being intentional about it, you're probably not having the performance that your company could actually exhibit.
And I think ignorance was never a response, but particularly post George Floyd, it felt like we're not going to start over every time something happens. You have to do the work so that you're ready to act correctly in situations instead of saying, well, I haven't had that happen to me, so I don't understand, right? Carolyn, this transitions perfectly to a lot of brands talking about DEI, a lot of brands making big promises, particularly in particularly fraught moments of racial reckoning or high-profile incidents. And we just had one with Kanye West. We are going through it again now with Kyrie Irving. By the way, how many of you saw the apology that didn't say I'm sorry and had no specifics and was like, let's throw some money at the situation and see if everyone goes away? How do you actually see the responsibility of brands to speak up in situations like that versus the promises that they make?
Oh, it's so hard. I'm Jewish, so this one hits home particularly for me. I'm one of very few Jewish people who are loud about being. We're in Chicago. I'm not mixed at all. We're gonna learn how. Let me tell you a little bit about Shana. What happens on that day,
There's
right?
a big button.
So yeah,
And lots of candy.
and like yeah, you know, there's things that happen with
I think
Jesus.
he was friends with Jesus.
Yeah, right. So I learned. So I think part of it is taking the the personal and the hurt out of it, right? And just like how hurtful that is, and understanding, well, what are we going to do about this? And are we really going to post something on our Gatorade owned channels that condemns this? The being owned by PepsiCo makes this complicated because somewhere else in PepsiCo, which is a huge company that owns Frito-Lay, in addition to all of our beverage partners, like, do we have a deal with him or with that team? Like, are we going to upset the apple cart if we as Gatorade do something that somebody else doesn't do? So from the public facing portion of it, it's hard, and nothing moves as quickly as I'd like it to. It should be really easy to say we condemn hate speech, right? Support Jews. It shouldn't be that hard, and it ends up being really, really difficult. So the way to make change is to start within our organization and to open a space on my team, within the Gatorade team, to say, this is not acceptable. And if you don't know why it's not acceptable, here's lots of resources, and let me teach you. And I've met people that have never met a Jewish person in their life. And like, it's my honor to explain to you what Judaism is and why it's important to me. And so making a space where people feel comfortable bringing their whole selves to work and having real conversations about this is really hard. But that's the work. It has to start with us. Before we can make some splashy PR statement, like our whole team has to be on the same page about that. And I don't think we're quite there yet. So every day we got to do that work to unpack it internally. And if enough teams do that in enough companies, we'll get there. But nothing's as easy as I want it to be.
Of course not. Education does take work and time versus let's put out a black box on our Instagram and now we fixed racism, right? It's harder to do the work and to have those uncomfortable conversations. Kathy, when it comes to the Olympics and you're putting together an Olympic bid for a city, there are many decisions that go into that. And if you look to the past in plenty of spaces, the Olympics hasn't been good for them. It has required those tough conversations of, are we going to use these buildings again, or are we displacing people to create spaces for this temporary event? Fortunately, LA is very big and full of venues. So maybe those aren't the top line issues that you have to deal with. But what were some of the things you had to consider as you were putting together that bid?
Well, you're exactly right. We have just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to facilities. And so we talk a lot about the fact that we, different than many other cities and many other countries, we can actually fit the games to our community as opposed to having to fit the community to the games. And ultimately, when you actually bid for an Olympic and Paralympic Games, part of the reason you do that is it could be a myriad of reasons. In our case, it is the opportunity to shine a light on Los Angeles and to continue to lift more quickly things like investment into infrastructure. So for example, we will see a marked difference that is actually happening with many of the municipal agencies very focused on having those things finalized by 2028. It's not something that I am responsible for or that we are responsible for, but the city said this is a great way for us to convene a lot of people that have very disparate points of view about what they have to get done and say, we got to get it done by 28. Who has flown through LAX? As they say, and to borrow from our mayor, the 7 worst words in the English language are, can you pick me up at LAX? And yet now we see $15 billion of infrastructure capital improvement going into LAX. And so people often ask, is it going to get any better? And I'm like, oh, it can't get worse. So all of that is actually happening. And the focus is how quickly can we get those things done? How do we actually improve public transportation in Los Angeles? So all of that will happen. In addition to, I think something we were talking about here, how do we reduce the barriers of entry for kids to actually participate in sport? And so there are so many people that have memories of 1984 and about the experiences with the Olympic Games in that period of time and how that meant that they either got into or continued to play. And so for us, we look at it as, yes, we can perhaps improve the lives of the community by virtue of increasing the opportunity to actually be able to move around. But number two, if we can actually get more kids, so we've invested $160 million to essentially reduce the barrier of entry for kids to play. And a lot of that affects women, girls, because if you have two kids in the household and you've got to choose because of an economic barrier, who are you going to choose to play? Oftentimes it's the boy. And by putting this money in, which is essentially to make it low cost or no cost for kids to play, again, at a recreational level, we think we're going to keep kids in sport and find pathways for them to maintain, become better citizens, which is a huge piece of it. And those kind of things were part of parcel what went into us hosting or looking to host the games.
Yeah, and it's great because some of the other challenges not existing means you can focus on a lasting legacy of positive effects on the community. One of the things I loved learning so much from Alana Nichols last year, Paralympian, was that most of the spaces that host an Olympic and Paralympics are much better communities for people who are differently abled afterwards because they have to be intentional about creating those spaces.
That's right.
And that there is this little letdown for her sometimes coming home from the Paralympics because everyone there is looking for ways to help, is ready and able and suited and has the resources to help with differently abled people. And then she goes home and it's back to a world that isn't really built for her. So there are so many ways that hopefully LA will benefit from some of those things, which is
well,
really
just really quickly, just to jump on that. I mean, this will be the first time we actually host in LA. Third time we'll host the Olympic Games, but the first time that we will host the Paralympic Games. And just as that is a calling card for us when we talk about youth sport, we're actually also mandating adaptive sports be a part of that program. And what do we do to continue to advocate on behalf of children with disabilities, the opportunity of that sport should be available to them.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Rini, you have to serve a lot of different fans. And right now there's NFL fans who get most of their NFL on TikTok, or watching YouTube highlights. And then there's the die-hard, have been a fan for 50 years, quit changing things around on me, and I don't know what Amazon Prime is. Sorry, I made him Southern, Rini. I made him Southern.
Good.
God
It's like
darn.
my dad. Like 81. What do you
How do
mean I
you-
have to go on my phone to watch this? Like
Right.
that? And it's a flip phone.
My parents are always like, our cable's not working again, it's down. I'm like, it's not down. You have to put your password in. How do you balance that though? Because you're making these revenue decisions and you have to be like, who are we serving?
Yeah, I mean, our marketing team, we have our new CMO a couple years ago named Tim Ellis. He came from Activision, and he's done some really fabulous stuff within our world that's been made everyone really uncomfortable because it's focusing on, frankly, that younger fan. And it's great to think about my dad. He's 81. He's a fan. He's not going anywhere. I mean, he's going to be there. And so focusing on that younger fan, and they're focused on music and gaming and fashion. And we've done this just a really great job within our social media group, taking the helmet off the player, making them more human and fun. And we've done that through TikTok. We've done that through a lot of areas. And if we think about the future, and we can't be complacent, it's great. We have 187 million fans. We can't be complacent. And so really focusing on that next wave from female fans, young fans, Hispanic fans, and being where they are, we have to do it in ways that might make your traditional 60 to 70 to 80-year-old a little uncomfortable, or where they're not. I mean, I think some younger fans didn't have a problem finding Amazon Prime, but clearly my dad on his flip phone, 100%, because he doesn't even have an app. There's no apps on a flip phone. The fact that they still make those is ridiculous. But it's going to help the next wave of fandom, and they're going to be fans in a different way. I got an email the other day. I went to Ole Miss, and I got an email from a guy from Ole Miss and he was talking about his son is just an avid NFL fan now because he'd watched the Dude Perfect simulcast, which was an alternate broadcast, kind of like what we have Manningcast with ESPN. And he had watched the Nickelodeon game, obviously, too, with all of the slime. And he's like, he's die hard. I'm like, well, what's his favorite team? And he gave me like 8 teams. And it's like, well, who's his favorite player? None of the players are on those teams, right? And it's so exciting to see that. So testing and learning, not everything is going to work, but really testing and learning to help build that fandom is important for the future.
And not judging how the latest generation receives and digests things.
Yeah, I mean, we have all broadcasts that we've done with women only. We've got, I mean, it's like, again, really trying to find where we can continue to grow. If you're complacent in anything you do, at some point you're going to age out. People aren't going to care. I mean, look, the game is great. It's fantastic. Some games are better than others, but we want to make sure that we're still providing a place that is a community for where everyone is welcome. And that doesn't matter if you're old, if you're young, if you're straight, if you're gay, if you're black, if you're white. Like, we want everyone to feel a part of the NFL community and find a place that they feel that they can express that fandom in a really unique, fun way.
That's the message. I mean, it's been Becky Hammond, St. Vincent. It's like being complacent, doing the same thing, looking for people to just confirm what you're already doing will never get you that growth you're looking for. Kia, you have had to grow the team since you were that one with the account executive. And you're walking into meetings as a CEO who is also a black woman. How much does that inform how you interact, or how conscious of that are you when you're going into meetings where maybe you're the only woman or the only black person?
Yeah, impossible for me not to be conscious of it. It's my daily life. It's my lived experience. I think my focus, though, is on making that the superpower and not the challenge. And if that becomes the focus or the reason why I shouldn't or can't, it's flipped on its head, mainly because of the product that we're actually marketing. You know, the league is representative of over 80% plus African American women. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's about them. It's about them reaching their level. It's about them getting to better pay and more fans and more corporate partnerships. Like, keeping the main thing, and it's less about me and more about, well, I'm already in the room now. If we're gonna dwell on this, let's get it out of the way, but let's go on to business. Going back to, I don't really wanna keep talking about, like, I'm the only black person in the room, I'm the only woman in the room. Let's get down to the business portion of it.
A little bit, it's like you're welcome that I am. That's like, and you guys are all lucky that I happen to be a woman, that I happen to be a black woman, because I'm awesome. It's like part of
get over that.
Part of my
Let's get on
superpower.
yeah,
I do love
absolutely.
that pivot though, because we are moving to those conversations of more people understanding it's a benefit to you that I bring my experience and my perspective. It's not a drawback.
It's like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm gonna start saying that every time I walk into a meeting. You're welcome. I'm awesome. You're glad I'm here. Okay. In theory, we have like a little less time than I wanted left, so we'll just pretend we have a little bit more. And I want to ask you each one last question, because like I said, I think we come up here, we talk about our successes and everything we did right. We need to tell everyone something we failed at. A mistake, a bad investment, a choice in communication, whatever it is. Carolyn, I know you thought a lot about your failure, spent the whole car ride. Give us a good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of them to choose from. The product I am most proud of that never saw the light of day, because I messed it up, was called Gatorade Soccer Formula. None of you have ever heard of Gatorade Soccer Formula. We developed it for a global audience. It was going to be called Gatorade Football Formula, which sounded a lot better. Had a specific carbohydrate blend in it that was made to kind of kick in the last 15 minutes of a soccer game. Gatorade Thirst Quencher was developed for American football. American football, you can go to the sideline a lot, right? A lot of sideline breaks. You can get drinks whenever you need to. Global soccer, you don't have that opportunity. You got 45 and then 45. And the last 15 minutes is when like 60 to 70% of goals are scored because your legs are tired. So we worked really hard on the science behind this carbohydrate. We were so excited to tell the world about it, and nobody cared. Right? It was really hard to explain what I just said to you in like 2 inches of space on a label, right? When you're sitting at the shelf trying to figure what you want, and you're really just looking for blue Gatorade. Like, how do I explain that to you? So learned so much about what I can in fact tell consumers at that moment of purchase, how to make science cool or not. It's really hard to make science cool, and how much work you have to do from a community and a buy-in perspective before you can put something out in the world. One of the reasons Gatorade is so successful is because professional leagues and teams use us every single day without us paying them to do it, right? The stuff works, right? So when you see your favorite athletes, leagues, teams using the product, we didn't have that opportunity to do it with this. So there's so much that I learned from that experience. I was mortified to talk about it for a really long time. We spent a lot of money developing this thing, coming up with a marketing plan, and it flopped quickly. But the more that I can tell that story and tell people about it, not only is it okay to fail, I want you to fail. We don't learn from just making new flavors, right? That's very safe. We learn when we take chances, we make mistakes, we get ourselves a little bit messy, and then we can come back and do it better the next time.
I love it. So well said. Kia, how about you?
I'll take it way back. I didn't get a job. It was, right out of college. I was a D1 athlete. I was a shoe-in to become a coach at my alma mater. And then I went through the interview process and didn't get the job. And it wound up being the most wonderful thing that ever happened, because I really didn't want to be a coach. It was the easy thing. It was, as I said, the shoe-in. I was the one. Everyone else was doing something else. And it sort of started me on this entire journey of doing the hard thing and choosing the hard thing every single time. And, that's what I took from it. Who knows if I was going to go on and be a mini Becky Hammond of a coach. But, I always look back on that moment like, you didn't really want that. You really wanted to take the easy way out. And, I discovered the sports business industry, and it's just been completely fulfilling ever since.
That's awesome. Kathy?
Oh, I had a good public, just good one. You guys heard Cindy Cohn speak yesterday or the day before, and how great she was, right? And she's done incredible things. Well, in 2017, 2018, I actually ran for that position, and took a leave of absence after a very, very long career of standing up Major League Soccer and really being a main driver for the development with all of the people that I worked with of the development of the game. I ran for that position, and I went from representing a product to being the product. And I failed. I didn't win. And I look at that in several different places now. I mean, it was many people know the debacle that did occur, and Cindy has been able to step in and do just a beautiful job. And quite frankly, as I said to her last night, I think she's been able to do more things than I would have been able to do. And I think, and we should all be excited about the leadership that she has continued to show. But I looked at that, and it gave me a moment to say, okay, what are the positives I take out of this? Because I failed, and ultimately what I realized is that I was always true to who I was. I was not willing to compromise my morals or my North Star in an effort to actually succeed. Because my personal code of conduct was actually more important than winning in that particular case. So I was unwilling to cheat to win. And you think that everybody says, oh, I'm never going to do that. And then you're given the moment. You can actually do that and potentially win, or not do that and potentially lose. And I came out of it and I realized I won. I actually won. I mean, it also helped I was able to take the summer off, which was awesome, got to float in the pool. And then ultimately here I am as the CEO of the LA 28 Olympic and Paralympic Games. So, fail, man. You got to go out there, go reach for it, because otherwise you never know what's possible.
Well, fail with principles.
Yeah.
Don't lose.
That's exactly right.
Fail with integrity.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Don't give up your integrity and take the L. Rini, take us home.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys were at the Dallas Super Bowl. It was.
I was there. It was
with my spoon.
So there's some drama. There weren't enough seats for fans, and I was hosting a suite. I was a director then of new business, and so I was hosting new business clients. And when we went into the suite, I noticed that there was a woman there, and she was intoxicated, and she was an important woman. She was a spouse of a very important executive, and my initial gut, and part of my failure was I just didn't trust my gut, was to get her out of there quickly, and she threw up twice. And so I go to get her, we call security, and there were a bunch of NFL executive men. They were like, she's fine, leave her in here. And we had CEOs in there. It was gross, right? I mean, like, throw up's gross. And so I was like, okay, fine, we'll leave her in. She then threw up again later, and I was so frustrated. So I pick her up, and I'm standing there. I call security, and I'm so angry that I'm about to cry. And that's like one of those things that's like the last thing you want to do. Like, people are like, don't be so emotional. Like, this is who I am. It's Rini. I'm high. Like, I'm always at 110%, but 110% of frustration at that time. And one NFL executive, EVP, came out to the door this way. Another one came over this. We were next to Roger's suite, and they were looking at me, and I could feel the tear. Security people were coming here. Roger's chief of staff came over there because she's very important. And the tear came down. It was like, boo, like a tear heard around the world. And it was literally like, this guy went that way. I mean, they left. And it was like, if you guys have read Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants, she always talks about, she's like, I say cry, it will terrify everyone. It was totally right. But ends up, security takes her out. The lesson was, like, trust your gut. Like, I was so worried of getting in trouble by the NFL executives. I was so worried about, who is she to kick this person out, to make it more of a comfortable. I should have just trusted my gut. Now it gives me this great story. So I probably need some new material, but it's one of those where
it works.
That you got to trust your gut in those scenarios. And I should have in the beginning escorted her out of the suite.
I love ending on that. Trust your gut. So many lessons from you ladies. So many things to take back and think about. Everybody, a big round of applause for these incredible women.
Thank you.
All right.
And sorry for going over. I swore less this year. Let's bring back Julie Foudy, the amazing. I saw someone doing the worm last night, and I assumed it was Foudy. I got so pumped, and it wasn't her. So maybe do it now? The worm? Yeah? In a blazer?
The dying worm, as we call it. Wow, that was great, Spainer. Really good. Before we get to our world-class panel, athlete panel, which is one of my all-time favorites, I had a chance to catch up. You might have heard Laura talking on the very first day how Ally has become an awesome partner of the summit. They've been part of the last two summits. They are also the first person, when I talked to Andrea Brimmer, the CMO, who came onto our podcast without any numbers and any data, I said, Andrea, I really want to do this podcast. Will you join me? And she was like, yes. I was like, you haven't even seen any numbers. She's like, I don't care. I believe in you. I believe in this. And as Laura was talking about on the first day, they are heavily invested in this space. You may recall 6 months ago at the May Summit, they announced their 50-50 pledge. And sadly, Andrea couldn't be here at this summit, but I had a chance to catch up with her before the summit. We talk about that pledge and also what they're doing in the women's sports space. So here's Andrea Brimmer from a couple weeks ago.
So as you know, we got the 50th anniversary of Title IX coming up. And while there's been incredible change as a result of Title IX, viewership of women's sports still is underrepresented. And we think that's not the right thing. And we believe in do it right. It's our tagline and it's everything that we're about. So we're going to commit today that over the course of the next 5 years, for every dollar that we spend in media, in men's sports, we're going to match that 1 for 1 in women's sports.
Look at that. The big bold pledge from May. I love that moment because it was bold indeed. So, okay, we're 6 months beyond that. That was May. How's it all going?
You know, it's hard to believe it's been 6 months, and I am so proud of the amount of work that the team has done in 6 months. It's incredible. Our spend already in women's sports is up almost 300% from that time, which is absolutely staggering. We've been really more intentional about optimizing into more and more women's media. And I think our first real and big act, which I couldn't be more proud of, is what we've been affectionately terming the primetime-ification of women's sports, and working with the NWSL and CBS to move the championship game to primetime, which is the first time that will ever occur in the history of women's sports, which is pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is. And up 300% as well. Why is that so important? What is the data showing you, Andrea?
I mean, look, we're still, there's so much work that needs to be done. We need to do so much work to move the needle. If you even look at important things like playoff games, NWSL playoff games, and, you know, other big moments in women's sports that have occurred over the course of just the last 6 months since we made that pledge, they're still not getting the coverage. They're still not easy to find. They're still not easy to access. And we really just feel like we have so much ahead of us that we need to do. And it's important. We need to make sure that little girls can see themselves so that they can be their best selves, so that they can know that there's a path to sport that's important. And we need to make sure that we are relentless and never stopping until we really get to true equity between men's and women's sports.
And as I know you feel deeply about, it's a stage these athletes deserve to be on. And on that note, given all of the news in women's sports and women's soccer in particular with the Sally Yates report, let's turn to that quickly, if you would, because people are looking to corporations and sponsors to apply that pressure, right, to create some accountability. So what is Ally's strategy given that news and given that report?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. And first, I have to say, just, you know, as a former player, reading that report absolutely tore me apart. Watching the great piece that ESPN did on Truth Be Told, there were a lot of tears, and it was hard to watch. Yeah. But there was also an immense amount of pride in terms of the bravery of the players and the way that the players are reclaiming their league and taking their power back. Yeah. And I have a lot of hope for the future of the NWSL. I think Jessica Behrman is a great commissioner. I know she wants to do the work. I know Megan Burke is so focused on making sure that there's accountability. And I think that this is a time where there's a lot of pressure on sponsors to also step up. And what the players don't need is less investment. They need more investment. We need a strong and sustainable league. The players shouldn't be punished by sponsors, you know, moving away from them and moving away from the league. They need to be rewarded for their bravery. And so from our standpoint, we're all in. We are doubling down. We're announcing an extension of our league deal, and we're in it for the long haul. And we want to have a seat at the table to be a part of meaningful change. And the only way that we can do that is through increasing our investment and increasing our commitment.
And I know that means the world to the players as well. So thank you for that. What's next then for Ally and continuing with this pledge, Andrea?
Yeah. Absolutely. Look, we're not there in terms of the promise that we made, so we're not going to stop until we get to 50-50. What that is going to require is to have the media availability to be able to accomplish the pledge. And so I continue to call on the networks and media platforms to do the right thing. Give these women the stage that they deserve Sponsors have the dollars. They want to bring them off the sidelines. You need to give us the media to buy. I also invite other brands to join us. We can't do this by ourselves. And so we need other brands to be a part of the 50-50 pledge and to make the same types of statements. And from our standpoint, you know, look, we love our association with the NWSL. Soccer is near and dear to our hearts and an important platform for us. But we're also looking at how we can expand into other women's sports and how we can support women-owned media and really look holistically at the entire ecosystem around women's sports and how we can be a meaningful part of that for a long time to come.
Thank you. Thank you for being in this space. Thank you for being so committed in this space. I know I speak for a lot of women when we say, and a lot of athletes when we say it means the world to us, my friend. Next time, though, you need to be live, present at the summit. Forget this, you know, recorded stuff, because I owe you barrels of wine.
I know you do, and I am going to take you up on that. And look, this is near and dear to my heart. You know that. This is near and dear to what Ally is all about and the commitment that we have. And I'm sorry I can't be there. I hope you guys have a great summit. I promise I will be there next time, no matter what.
All right.
And I appreciate the fact that we just had this opportunity to even talk in this manner. So thanks, Jules.
All right. Thanks, Andrea. Miss you.
Miss you too. Have a good summit.
Thanks. Aw, I know. Barrels of wine. I do owe her. But you heard the call to action. You also heard her say she promised to be at the next summit. So we're going to make sure that she has that in writing as well. Big thank you to Ally and all our sponsors here for all their support in this space. And now to, I believe, our final panel. This is it. We're finishing strong. World-class athlete panel. Our first athlete is from the University of Oklahoma, where she was a record-setting softball player, two-time national champion, three-time first-team All-American, and she is the NCAA Division I career leader in home runs at 122. She was also drafted #1 in both women's professional fast pitch and Athletes Unlimited this past spring. And following her most recent NCAA championship in 2022, she won gold at the Canada Cup for Team USA. She is a total baller, and she's extra cool because she's from Hawaii. Give it up for Jocelyn Allo! Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, Joss. All right, next up, this athlete literally has excelled at every single level. A national champion while she was at college at University of North Carolina in 2012. She also won two NWSL titles with the North Carolina Courage, and literally just a couple days ago might have done the same thing with the Portland Thorns in her third title. Good rally to get here, because literally that was over the weekend. And she also won a little thing called a World Cup in 2019. And now to add to her long list of accolades, on the very top, she is mom to Marcel. Please welcome the one and only Crystal Dunn. Dunner! Okay. And finally, our next world-class athlete is an American professional mixed martial artist who competes in the bantamweight division of UFC, where she is the former UFC women's bantamweight champion. She was also the first woman to win the Ultimate Fighter. She had a baby girl in 2018 named Isabella. Took a 2-year break to be a mom, but she came back with a roar. In fact, beating Amanda Nunes in December of 2021, you might remember it, to win that UFC women's bantamweight title. Please welcome the Venezuelan vixen. That is her fighter name, Juliana Pena.
What's up, girl?
Hi, darling. Okay. Oh, you get your own couch, Juliana. Do you want me to join you over there? Was I supposed to be on that side?
No, this one's for me.
You're like, no, stay away. I've had too much time with you the last 3 days.
I know.
Okay, I used to start this panel with a fun fact, but given we have the Venezuelan vixen over here, I figured we're going to ditch the fun fact. We are going, what is your fighter name? Is that what you call it? Your fighter name?
One thing that most people don't know about fighter names is you can't give them to yourself. Like you have to be given the moniker.
Oh,
So
shut up! Why didn't you tell me that before
I
the
didn't
interview?
choose the Venezuelan vixen. My coach chose it for me because my dad's Venezuelan, and a vixen I think is like a pissed off, scorned woman, and so it kind of like fit. And so, yes, no, that's my fight name. But what about you girls?
Okay, well you can choose your own name today.
I feel like Julie, you should choose our names then for us.
Oh no, Crystal, that's a bad idea. Do you have one, Crystal? What is your fighter name?
Gosh, I feel like my fighter name would have. Is my mic on?
Yeah, no, we got a mic issue over here.
Can you guys hear me now though? No.
Stand by. You're gonna get a handheld. There you go.
Good.
You can.
Entertainer at heart, so therefore this
Yeah.
is very fitting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my name would have to be something around like C Dizzy. I don't know. I'm just like an entertainer at heart, you know? So I don't know. I don't have a good one, but I have one that would at least make people feel like, you know, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do in the cage. They have a good time after they beat the shit out of each other. Oh God.
It's
Potty
true.
mouth. Too early for me to be swearing.
Puts them in the swear jar.
C Dizzy.
C Dizzy.
I like it. What do we got, Joss?
So my middle name is actually Aloha Pumehana, and I think my fighter name would be the Pumehana Punisher.
Oh. Yes. Love that.
A little spicy.
Solid.
I like it.
Very much like the Venezuelan vixen. I was thinking mine could be like Rowdy Fowdy, but then I'm like, well, that's kind of boring because Rowdy Ronda Rousey, right?
Yeah, it's
that's
taken.
like been taken. So my middle name is Maureen. So Julie Maureen Fowdy. And on the national team, when they got mad at me, they called me J Mofo. For Mo. So I'm going to be J Mofo.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
J Mofo, I like it.
I think it's good. Okay, the other thing we need to add, I feel like you're so far away. Juliana, come in just a little closer. Come here. The other thing we need to add is we were trying this on the first night. You guys weren't here. I apologize.
Oh. Should we show them how it's done?
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. Shit. Oh, God.
Let's do it.
Okay. I called it the stare down. I learned that it's called
the face off.
Face off.
Yes.
So you know when they do this pre-fight? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
You guys, this
Yeah,
is
I love it. This is
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on the I think everyone should adopt this. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready?
So we were working on this first day, and I decided I cannot do it.
It's pretty good, but it needs some work.
Wait, we got to step in, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
How do you do
1,
that?
2, 3.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. Girl! She's about to beat you up.
Wait, I need my glasses off. You have to see my eyes.
It's getting stronger, J Mofo, but it ain't gonna be good enough to beat me. I won.
That's my problem. The whole night, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I
She's
can't.
like,
you want to try
That
it?
is intense.
You guys want it? I was
off.
thinking we could do that at every game. Like every coin toss, when you go up as a captain, you start it by just like,
what's up?
could you do that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I have a bad game face, so I would be smiling the whole time. My game face would be.
If you smile, that's a tell. That means you're not gonna do so well.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah.
It's true.
If you blink, you're losing.
What is the origin story of the face off?
I think that
face
it's
down.
basically just trying to get butts and seats, right? So like I think they need butts and seats, and if you show the real pent up aggression with each fighter, that people are going to be more interested to come and see them fight the next day. So I think it's just promotion.
Do we, Andy? Do we have the Issa pic of when you were doing the face off?
Yeah, that was weird because they asked me right before I was going out for the weigh-ins. They said, "Hey, Amanda's gonna bring her daughter on stage," and we were wondering if that's so sweet. We were wondering if you wanted to bring your daughter on stage too, and I said, "Say less. This chick's ready to go." Like, she sees me practice all the time, so she knows what's up with the face-offs.
Has she ever beat you in a face-off?
Never. Never.
Okay, for the last couple days, we've been talking a lot about this upward trajectory and what feels like women's sports are in this really good space and everything is taking off. And the numbers are taking off, attendance, sponsorship, all of it. And so I figured we would go right to the source because we have all of you who are in the best in your sports. And why, particularly to your sport, Joss, we'll start with you, why you think it's taking off.
I think the game of softball is growing in the right ways. I think you see it with the viewership that we get at the World Series. You've seen it with AU, and they have their sponsorship with ESPN Plus, so now you get to watch softball year-round. With the WPF, I know they've had live streams, so I think just the viewership of these people just want to continue to follow their favorite college athletes once they go pro. And it's just continuing to take off in the best direction possible. And I'm just excited to see not only how it goes for me, but how it goes for the girls that are in college now and how it's going to be for when they get to professional. I think it's going to be super great.
Yeah. And the numbers, I mean, are all supporting it. 2021 College World Series, most watched ever, right? 2022, fourth most watched ever. So we're seeing it in soccer, of course, Crystal. I mean, the CBS number for your final that just came in, most watched NWSL game in 10-year history of the entire league. 915,000 viewers, up 71% from last year.
Yeah.
And of course, we've seen it at the national team level at all. What do you attribute the spike to?
I think sponsors coming in and really looking at women's sports as a massive investment and not a charity case. I think for a long time, people didn't want to get involved in women's soccer because they were like, are you guys even profitable? Are we just going to throw money away and not kind of see anything come about? And I think that narrative has definitely changed where people want to get involved in women's sports. We are profitable. We are a massive investment that everyone can benefit from. And I think what's changed as well is I think women are banding together and not accepting just below standard quality. I think what you're seeing more is people are more aware of our games. They're streamed more. There's more accessibility to it. And I think that comes from women as a whole just being like, it's not good enough. We know and believe in our sport, and we know that we can reach new heights, but we need that chance. We need people to believe along with us, because I think, everyone who's been a female athlete even 10 years ago, it's like the belief was always there, but what you needed was the support, the resources to go into it. And I think that's a credit to women always fighting for what we properly think we deserve. And that's us just not settling and raising the bar even more. And there's obviously no better explanation than, just watching these games. The viewership is increasing, and I think it's incredible. And the trajectory is amazing, and it's just going to keep growing from there.
Yeah, I would even argue you go back to my old times of 20 years ago, not just 10 years ago. The belief always there, but we were like, water the damn garden. Please, give us some hydration.
Yes. Throw us something.
Throw us a bone here. People will watch, and now we're seeing it. Juliana, what about with MMA and UFC?
I think the very first thing is the fact that women weren't allowed to fight in the UFC until 2013. So that's a big reason why I think that it's become a lot more popular, especially for young girls. I feel like fighting gives them that empowerment to let them have control of their own lives and be the captains of their own ships and say, hey, I can actually make money in this field, and people want to watch girl fights, and just the fact that they closed the doors off to us for so long and finally let us put our foot in the door and actually fight amongst the men too, I think is a main factor of why it's gotten so popular. I'll also say the aggressive global marketing that they have in the UFC, it's everywhere. It's all over the world. It's not just the United States, it's international. I have fans reaching out to me from all parts of the world, letting me know that they're watching my fight, that they're in support of me. And I'm talking like the places that you wouldn't even expect, And lastly, I think that the fighting incentive bonus of, knocking out your opponent and getting $100,000 bonus at the end of the night for a performance of the night is also, if the fight's not going to motivate you, let the money motivate you. As a woman, to be able to make, that kind of money it's motivating.
Yeah, a nice little sweet pot at the end of it.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's based on your performance, obviously, but if you go out there and starch somebody or submit them in 30 seconds, you're getting a bonus for sure. Main events also, if you main event a card, you're getting a bonus. So I think that that's also, the reason why it's become more popular. these girls now these days in martial arts are starting at such a young age, whereas that wasn't possible when I was a kid because it was going to go nowhere because we weren't allowed to fight. Now that we are.
Well, when you talk about it just starting in 2013, I think of the pace of women's sports progression culturally is sloth-like, right? For even the more traditional sports of softball and soccer, for someone like you, Juliana, in that field where it is laden with a lot of testosterone in that cage.
Yes.
You had to then break through that as well, on top of the cultural sloth-like pace that is already there.
Well, and they say that, the women's fighting is like 10 years behind the men's fighting in terms of like women trying to catch up and learn how to wrestle and stuff like that. But, I think that the women's fights always steal the show. We're like mama bears, and we're going to defend our cubs. And I think that they are a lot more exciting, in my opinion. A woman is not going to quit, and she's definitely not going to stop. You're going to have to, like, literally kill her. And I think that men, it's easier for them to tap or they get hit once and then they're done. Chicks, no, they're going to fight to the death. To the death. To the death.
Men, they're soft a little bit, aren't they?
Yeah. I'm a little bit hype after she said that. I'm ready to.
You ready to throw
I'm
down?
ready to do the
Not
face
you.
off. You could practice your face off. It gets you into the mood right away. Another barrier broken, Crystal, is, of course, we were talking about it yesterday with Midge, and she was here, and Cindy Parlow. Congratulations, being a huge part of us getting to equal pay finally. After decades of fighting this fight. What was the team's reaction when you finally got it over the end line?
I mean, relief, I mean, honestly, Jules, you and the 99ers are the ones that paved the way. I think it's important that we will always acknowledge that us getting over the finish line isn't about the team currently. It's about those that were fighting this fight years before, who were asking for so much and asking for the standard to be risen. And I think, I think on both sides, both the men's national team, the women's national team, we feel so much more unified than we've ever felt before. And I think that is incredible to feel like we are under one umbrella. I think it was hard to always feel like, the slogan, oh, we're one team, one nation. I go, we cannot feel that way unless we feel like we are being treated like the men. And I think, it was a long journey. It was worth it in the end. I think working closely with Cindy was incredible. We knew her position. We knew that she was obviously working her hardest to make sure that this gets done. And it's a win for everybody. And I think it's important we all realize that women are helping grow the pie, and we deserve bigger pieces of it. And I think for a long time, we were playing this role where we were like, well, we're doing everything that's asked of us, but why are we not receiving what we know we deserve? And I think it is a win for everybody. And I think that's the feeling that we had when everyone was signing the document. We were like, we finally have come to this agreement and understanding that women deserve everything that we are asking for, and we deserve to be in the conversations of pushing and changing the barriers for the younger generation as well.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because Midge mentioned that yesterday as well. Like, there's this joy, of course for the moment, but then she was like, but wait, we should have been here a long time ago. Wait, I don't want to celebrate too much. This is what we were always supposed to get.
Exactly.
For Jocelyn, for you guys, in terms of next frontier in softball and the impact something like this has on your sport as well and women's sports in general, what is the next frontier, you think, for softball?
I think just for us, it's growing in a really good direction. And I think now with having two leagues being AU and WPF, girls after college don't really have to stress about trying to find a job or something, or they're like, dang, my playing days are over, and that was the reality for some people. And I mean, besides like the national team, but now people can actually make a living off of softball, and it's incredible to see. And I remember looking in the mirror, I had my uniform on right before my professional debut, and I was like, wow, softball's really my job. And softball's really my job, and I just never thought that I would be able to do this and to be able to help my family and do things of that nature. It's just incredible to see, and I'm just excited for what's to come, because I know that softball and women's sports in general is like I said, moving in the right direction, and girls can now make this their job, and I'm just excited for what's to come.
Should we tell them what's to come for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
We've got some breaking news, party people.
So
Go on, Joss.
I actually just got traded to the Oklahoma City Sparks, and I'll be playing with them this summer, and I'm just so excited to be back home in the state of Oklahoma and just to play in front of the best crowds. I'm beyond excited, and I know that with Tina and the Spark and WPF, this was a good move, and I'm like speechless. I'm so excited to be there.
Yes! That's awesome.
you.
Congratulations. That's really cool. Juliana, what about in the MMA world? What's the next frontier for you all?
Oh my goodness. I think that we're main eventing. We are being put in the spotlight when it comes to these main event fights. So I feel like, we kind of have broken those barriers, where we've been in those slots for main events. For me, I think the biggest thing that we could do is kind of education and knowledge and about the sport, and kind of gearing it in a way that more women can be a part of it. But it's not, Jules, that easy of a thing to try to get people lined up for, women especially, because you got to get punched in the face and stuff. So that's one of the requirements. You got to know if you can get hit and punched in the face, and if you can't, maybe
I'm tapping out right now.
Maybe fighting's not for you. But in other barriers, I think that could be broken is just women's self-defense. Women knowing how to protect themselves, and women knowing how to defend themselves in that type of situation. If we can get more education and knowledge to women in that way, I think that they would be a lot more open to going out to the bar and watching the fights on the Saturday night. And that's what, as fighters, we want. We need more eyes on the sport. We need more people to watch.
I feel like the best ideas happen here at the summit, and we're going to add to that list, Laura. Juliana and I were talking on that note on the first night, right?
Yes.
And what did you suggest?
A self-defense workshop for the Women's in Sports Summit for next year.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, Juliana, let's do it.
I would love to teach you. I would love to teach y'all some stuff, self-defense.
Yeah, by let's, I mean you, not me. I would love to
break the wrist, walk away. No, I'm kidding.
Wouldn't that be good?
No, I think it'd be fun.
I think it would be
Just
so
casually
good.
breaking a wrist.
Yeah. No, I was kidding. It was from Napoleon Dynamite. Break the wrist, you walk away. But no, there's moves. There's absolutely moves. And like I said, as far as empowering yourself, I'm not asking you to be a fighter and go get locked in the cage. I'm not asking you to do anything, actually, but I am saying that, as a mother, as somebody who has a daughter, she has no choice but to be in self-defense and learn jiu-jitsu, because I don't want her to fight, but I want her to learn how to defend herself. And I think it's so important. It gives her so much confidence and empowerment. And that's, kind of how I want to raise my daughter,
Yeah. I will say on that note, I actually wrestled growing up, and I wrestled before I played softball, and I wrestled in high school, and I was actually looking back on old videos, and I just remember how much I loved looking at my muscles in the mirror, and just on video and stuff, and just how strong and confident I felt in myself, and it just proves her point that we need to continue to learn these stuff.
Yeah, and it starts with us. It starts with them letting our foot in the door, and then it starts with the next generation and what I can do. And I'm raising that next generation. I'm hoping in the future that we can make it to be a thing where women get paid a ton of money to be cage fighters, or like we were saying, just giving that confidence and that empowerment to that younger generation to know. I'm not necessarily saying you got to be a fighter, but it's nice to know how to defend yourself, or walk down a scary dark alley and feel like, these people, I don't need to be worried about these people. These people need to be worried about me. You know what I mean? I'm the threat out here.
I'm just going to walk down dark alleys with you all the time. I got Juliana.
I got your back, Jules.
I know. I'm like, sister, let's do this together.
Yes.
As we take a step forward, and we've been taking those steps forward. We sometimes take a step backwards, and this is a topic we talked about as well yesterday, Crystal, but I'll bring it up as it relates to you. The Sally Yates report, of course, came out in early October. One of the coaches named, and there was a coach you're very familiar with. You played for his club program in New York growing up. You played for him professionally. Coach Paul Riley with North Carolina, won 2 titles with them at North Carolina, and now you play with the Thorns. He was a coach there before, and that was a big topic in the report, of course, was how the Thorns handled all of this. So when this report is coming out, I feel like I just have to ask you that question with all those connections to it. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, when all this unfolded, it was a shock to me, to many. I think many of us spent a lot of time asking ourselves, like, could we have done something more? Could we have protected players more? And I think that doesn't go away. I think a lot of us feel like we are all a part of it in some way, and a part of the change moving forward. And I think playing under Paul, there was definitely instances in a sense where I felt like he was controlling, so that a lot of what has come out in the report, I'm shocked, but I also can understand like how he's grown to be what he was. I think in the beginning stages of the league, there were people who were allowed to just consume a lot of power, and they weren't checked. They weren't challenged in any way. And I think when the report came out, it just shook the whole league, and I think it's important to realize that as players across the NWSL, like we're all mourning, we're all grieving, we're all sharing the burden of the effects of the situation. And I think it's made the league come closer together. I think what's happened these last 2 years is, even though as a player I'm playing against an opposition, like I think honestly at the end of the day, like when the game ends, it's kind of like we're just all in this together, and I think it was this reckoning across the league, and I think now we're allowed to heal, and we're in a place where we can move forward and push for the appropriate changes that need to happen. And it's not easy. I think each day that goes by, you kind of feel like maybe a little bit lighter, but there's days that are hard, that are difficult. Something that brings you so much joy is also scarred and marked with a lot of trauma and a lot of moments that are not the most comfortable for us. So it's a day by day, a week by week. The season now has concluded, and I think we're all hoping that 2023 is this new, lighter year for us all to feel like, we are going to move forward. We're not going to forget everything that's happened, obviously, but we are going to try to move and push our league in a better place where we no longer have these stories. These stories now belong in the past, and they're not going to be a part of our future. So, but it takes all of us. It's across all the league, and each organization needs to do a deep dive into their own situation. And I think that's the only way you move forward is accountability. And it might be uncomfortable. I think as players, it's always hard for us to go to our bosses and people who control our careers to say, it's not good enough, we want better. But I think there's power in unity and a collectiveness. And I think that's what we learned these last 2 years is if we all ask for change together, there's no way that we can ever be, taken out or waive the feeling of being like, oh, am I going to have a job next year? So I think the collective and unity, unification that we've had this last 2 years is actually what ultimately is going to propel us into a better future for us all.
In that collective voice of the players, which I felt for so long hadn't been heard. You're just fighting. And this is just not in women's soccer. I know we talk about this in so many different sports. You're fighting for, is someone listening to us? Is anyone hearing any of this? So on top of finally feeling like the players have a voice, hopefully, to your point, there's this reckoning, and with it comes better investment, building out procedures, policies, staffing, player protection, safety advocates, all these things that have been lacking and not in place. And beyond that, it's not just something, again, that hopefully is instilled in women's soccer, but it can be spread to other sports as well. So on a more uplifting note, let's turn to Jocelyn, one of my favorite moments of watching you with your incredible career. And I can't even imagine where this falls on your list of accolades, but this is a moment, we have video of it. Don't run it yet. I'll set it up just a little bit, but it was when you were in your home state of Hawaii on the verge of setting the home run record. You were at 95 home runs, which, by the way, had been set by one of your former Sooners, right? Lauren Chamberlain. She was at 95. And you're at home, and this happens. We'll roll this video.
The 2-0. There it goes! There it goes! Jocelyn Alo hits number 96 in her home state. This place is going crazy. There's a new home run queen in college softball, and she still resides in Norman, Oklahoma.
Dang.
And her name is Jocelyn Aloha Pumihana Alo. From the island to the prairie to the top of the home run charts.
Sister, you almost hit that like above the lights, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, take me to that moment.
I remember going into, I think it was the 6th inning, and Coach Gasso had mapped it out. Like, she was like, Riley Boone's going to get on, so-and-so's going to move her over, so-and-so's going to get on, and Jocelyn's going to do it right here. And she said that right before the inning, and I didn't hear any of it, but she told me after. And then I remember getting into the box and just it being like kind of a normal at-bat. I think the count was 2-0, and then I saw something good to hit, and off the bat, I knew it was gone, and it kind of just went silent in my head, so I had to, like, watch back on video what had actually happened. And I think it was top 2 best moments of my life. I haven't had a kid or got married yet, so we'll see where that goes after that. But
what was your first one?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wait, what? That's not the top?
It was my first home run that at the World Series that my parents got to see. So both of them got to be there. My freshman year, I remember it was number 29. Yeah. But breaking the record was awesome, and doing it in my home state. And I remember Hawaii had only let 1,000 people in, but like the whole state wanted to come. So there was actually a parking lot out in left field, and there was people looking inside to just watch me make history. And every coach that had ever coached me in my life was there. Every family member that had never watched me play in person was there. All my grandparents were there, everything, and it was crazy. It was super crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
And in that moment, with all those people watching, which is a lot of pressure as well, I would imagine as well. But when you're in the box, the batter's box, what are you thinking?
Just keeping it simple, just trying to hit the ball hard. I think when you try to do too much, like trying to hit a home run, you find yourself a little less successful. So I was just trying to just stick to what I know, and if God wanted it to happen then he would have let it happen then. If he wanted it to happen earlier, he would have let it happen earlier. But I feel like my whole senior year was so storybook. You don't see a lot of things like that, and to break it in my hometown, my last at-bat ever at Marita Hines was a home run. All the accolades and stuff like that, and it was an awesome year. And I look back on videos now, and I got to actually see like someone's recording from where my dad was standing, and he was down the left field line, and he starts bawling, and he starts making his way towards me, and I pointed up at him whenever I was running in. So yeah, I was.
Because Dad was the one who would throw to you all the time. Levi, right? Your dad?
Yeah. So he's been with me ever since I was 4 years old. That picture actually is where he would take me every day after work. I remember there's this one story. I was 4 years old, and I wasn't old enough to play t-ball yet, and my older sister had been able to play t-ball, and I was like, no, like I really want to play t-ball. And he was like, shut up, stop crying, like I'll take you to the park, and we can hit all you want. And we would go, we'd hit 500 balls, pick them up, and my dog would be there. And at 4 years old, I wanted to just hit balls. So, yeah, I don't know another 4-year-old that wants to hit softballs for fun.
And you were already crushing it over the lights at 4 years old, probably.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, this kid can play.
Yeah.
We're going to pitch more to her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. To do that in your home state, I mean, that's every athlete's dream. And to be able to do it, actually do it in your home state in front of all the people who helped you get there, I love it. I remember watching that moment going, wow,
Yeah.
that is an athlete's dream right there. Juliana, similar to like this mindset when you get, soccer doesn't have a lot of closed moments, as I think like psychologists call it, like when you're standing over a ball to putt, you're in a box swinging, we're moving all the time, right? There's not a lot of closed moments. Yeah. But for you, Juliana, when you get in the cage, what's that mindset? Like, do you have like a routine you go to?
Well, I don't want to scare anybody because,
yes, I love it. Scare
fighting
us.
is so primal and so weird because, whether you have actually gotten in a physical fight or you have wanted to punch somebody in the face, okay, most people can relate to any sort of fight, right?
Right.
I just decided to choose that for a living for some weird reason because, I'm crazy. But fighting is so primal and it's a life or death situation, in my opinion. And maybe I should not take it that seriously. But for me, it's like it's the different wins and losses. It's so important, and when you win, there's nothing like it. The world comes to you. And when you lose, the world's on top of you, and you just have to keep that mindset of being able to hold that world up and say, I'm still running this. It's a very difficult thing, number one, to get locked into the cage and to say, it's just me and you. Just me and you, and then you are okay, you're doing that now. Now you have to switch into killer mode and like literal killer, like you kill or be killed, you're gonna eat or be eaten. And so that's a kind of dark and scary place to take your mind to, and
yeah.
I think that there's so much pressure that you put onto yourself and wanting to perform your best and to get that win and to get your hand raised at any and all cost. If I gotta claw eyeballs out, I'm gonna do it, whatever I have to do to get my hand raised. And I'm kidding, I would never claw somebody's eyes out, but
would you not?
I would not.
Okay.
I might bite, but I'm kidding. I would never bite. But I think that, yeah, when I'm walking in the tunnel and I'm going out there, it's almost as if I don't have a heart. If I did, it would be black. It's like, because I'm a serial killer, in my head, I'm a literal killer. I'm coming to kill you. So it's a kind of a dark, scary place, but it's also kind of euphoric in a way, because you can't hear anything. It's like there's the whole arena sold out. The place is roaring and you can't hear a thing. It's so weird. It's like
interesting.
Yeah, you're so in the zone. And I will say that, that tunnel vision of, just seeing the goal and just visualizing getting that hand raised is kind of all where my head is at. I've already made peace with the fact that I'm going to live, or I've made peace with the fact that I'm going to die. And I've made peace with that before I get inside of there. That way I know that I have nothing to lose and I'm going to give it my all 110% no matter what, because I've already accepted the fact that I'm going to live or die, and it's weird because I'm not actually living or dying, but in the sense you are, because you're going out there and you're literally putting blood, sweat, tears, every ounce of everything that you have in order to get your hand raised. And it's so serious, and maybe I need to speak to a psychologist so they can say, relax.
I feel like
relax.
maybe you should lie down on that couch, actually.
Yes, I know, I need to.
No,
maybe
it's
it doesn't
worth it.
have
It's
to be
worth
that serious, but for me it is. I noticed that about some people where I need to maybe switch my mindset a little bit in terms of, there's people that can lose and then they'll go to the bar and they'll have a drink and they'll have a good time and they'll hang out with their family. No, I'm like,
pissed.
I'm dead. Like, I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm like in a deep hole of depression. The post-game blues is for real. Whether you win or lose, actually, you still kind of feel that that onset of depression a little bit. I don't know what it is. Maybe if we talk to that one gal, we can figure out why I fight for real, and then I won't actually have to do this anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a passion of mine, and fighting is something I'm very passionate
Did you have a hard time getting to that space of acceptance of, like you said, it's almost this euphoric darkness of, okay, I'm in the ring and live or die? Because that's a big shift.
It is.
How do you get there?
It is. Like I said, maybe I'm doing it wrong and I need to just relax a little bit and not take it so seriously. I'll say that my daughter helps me be able to not focus so much on the fight, you know what I mean? And so like instead of fight, which I don't know is necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I think
No,
it's a good thing.
yeah.
But that distraction during fight week I think is very helpful. But then it comes to the serious mode. And you know, those face-offs help with those serious modes to say like this is real, this is happening, we're doing this, you know. It's no more games, no more BS, no more talking. It's like we're actually going to do what we signed up to do, and it's all over but the crime, you know? And I think that is easy to switch because, you know, as a combat athlete, you know that's all there is to it. It's mano y mano or hermana y hermana, and you're going toe to toe, and may the best woman win. And I think that in itself is such a serious thing that you're going to get in that mindset real quick, you know? Because if you're not, then you're going to get eaten.
Yeah, that's interesting too about Isabella. Speaking of being a mom, Crystal, literally 5 months. I don't know if you guys saw this game. Let's go to your semifinal game. So obviously they just won, but to get there in the semifinal, it's tied 1-1. And Crystal is 5 months now post-pregnancy from having Marcel, her son. And she's on limited minutes. What are you on now? 30, about 40? You're going up quickly.
I'm cruising.
You are cruising.
I think I got 60 in me, but
Yeah. Yeah, I got 60, Blanco. Come on.
Wait, 60 what? I'm sorry.
Minutes.
60 minutes of what?
Of playing.
Oh,
So-
like the whole time. You're
Yeah,
playing
like
the whole
it's a
time.
90-minute game, but coming back from pregnancy, obviously, it's like you're working your minutes up and you're trying to get more minutes, more minutes. She comes into this game. We have this video as well. This is amazing. One of the best goals I've ever seen. Check this out. Let's give
Wow,
some
what a
audio.
goal.
Hold on, we're gonna have audio too. Do we have audio?
I wish there was sound.
Oh,
What a shot.
do we have audio? No? Oh, damn! I'll be your audio. I'll commentate it. It comes back. Crystal's out of the top of the box. What? What?
What a shot.
I mean, those are like, to hit it that sweet. It's like, it rarely happens. And to do it in the semifinal and stoppage time, coming back and sending your team, after all that you guys have been through as well in Portland, sending it through, tell me about that one.
Well, I think to set the scene a little bit, that was a packed stadium. It was the second largest crowd in the playoffs in NWSL history. So, I mean, it was an incredible atmosphere to play in. And leading into that game, we, pleaded with the fans to show up. It's been tough for our club to have the fan support, the community support, obviously with everything going on. And I remember leading into the game, a lot of us were like, there might be only like 10 people here. We have no idea,
Right.
And I think
that's based on the Sally Yates report,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Just to give some context. Yep.
Yes. And I remember, game starts. I'm a little nervous. I'm like, it's a semifinal game. I think I'm going to go in. And the game was tight. So it's one of those moments where you're like, I want to help, but I would love to sub in when we're winning 3-0. That's a nicer, easier kind of transition into the game. But no, it's 1-1. My name is called. I'm subbing in. And just everything leading into that goal, we're speaking about being in the zone and deep focus. And I was so hyper-focused that game. And I knew, first of all, I've been here before where it's a semifinal game. It's you lose or you go home, So I think I got into the game just wanting to be my best version of myself for my teammates. For me, every time I step on the field, I don't think of myself as 5 months postpartum. I'm like, I'm an elite athlete. There's no excuses here. So I know when I subbed in, I was like, I'm going to fight for every ball, every tackle. I'm going to, bring something that's going to help this team, And I think when that goal happened, Jocelyn, you spoke about that initial silence. That's exactly what I heard. It was so many fans. I could see them cheering. I could see their hands raised, but I heard nothing. I saw my teammates running up to me. I didn't know what to do. I kept running. A part of me was also like, kill the time, celebrate for 10 more minutes so that we can all take a breather, And I think that goal meant so much to me. It was a goal that helped my team get into a final. It was a goal that made me feel like I'm back. I can do this. I think as women, when we come back from pregnancy, there's this doubt of, is my body going to be the same? Am I going to be able to reach the level that I was once at? And I think that goal allowed me to take a breather and have this relief of, Crystal, you're good. You're exactly where you need to be. And you being even here on this field available for this game is the achievement that I've always wanted throughout this year. So it's a massive goal. It was so big time for me personally, but for the team, you know, all I could think about was I helped my team get into a final, and that is the greatest thing ever.
Oh, so good. I honestly think if I had scored one like that, I would run straight to the locker room and then like, peace
Take
out,
your
I'm
cleats off.
done. I'm done. It is not.
That's my
gonna-
career.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I'm it. That's it. I ain't scoring anyone nicer than that. Oh my goodness. And here's the thing: if you don't know Crystal's career, like Crystal has played every single damn position out there, like literally outside back. Every position on the back line, every position in midfield, every position up top. I mean, I think you probably could play goalkeeper, but maybe they haven't tried you there.
I think I'd get chipped from half field. You know, due to me being 5'2", probably not the best.
But like, and then you're put into this situation 5 months after having Marcel, and again, you just step up and crush it. So I did a little personal jig around around the living room as I was watching that. That's congratulations. That's really cool. When you two specifically think as moms and the impact that's had on you as an athlete, how do you best describe that for both of you?
How do I best describe being a mom as an athlete? For me, there's more to fight for. You know, I think before I would actually talk methodically before I had a kid about, you know, I was fighting for my cub. You know, I wasn't even a mom yet, but I'm like, I'm a mama bear fighting for my cub. Like, what cub? Like, what are you talking about? And then I finally had a baby, and I'm like, no, really, this is my cub, and this is who I'm fighting for. Somebody's trying to take food out of my kid's mouth, and it's my job to do everything that I can to make sure that I can provide for her, especially as a single mother, you know. My job is to create a confidence in her so that she doesn't get, you know, all impressed by somebody's dusty ass son and go right off into the sunset. And I want to give her that confidence. I want to give her that empowerment. I want to give her, you know, that knowledge that, you know, shoot, you can provide for yourself, you know. You can be a woman, and you can be in a power of position. You can have your own financial stability, and you can provide for yourself and not have to depend on a man. And I think being able to show her that with what I'm doing and the example that I'm trying to show for her, and being the best role model that I could be, there's just so much more to fight for now that I become a mother. And I think that it means a lot more, you know, to show her what never giving up can do, and having that relentless attitude of just not going to stop, and I'm not going away, and I'm not going to be deterred, and I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to cry. I'm going to keep fighting for every square inch. And, you know, showing her that, I think, is powerful, and it's humbling, and it's an honor and a gift. And I thank God every single day for giving her to me as that gift, because she's awesome. And she's the star of my life. She really is.
Issa,
yeah, she's super cool. I mean, everyone says it about their kid, right? Oh, my kids are cool. They're like, my kid really is cool. Like, she really is. She's dope,
when
man.
you
honestly.
come back and do the self-defense class next year, you're bringing Issa the whole
She'll
time.
do it. Yeah, she'll show you some moves. She's got them.
I mean, that's incredible. I agree with everything you said. I think the perspective that you gain when you become a parent is a gift. You know, I step on the field every day now, and I'm like, I'm playing for so much more. You know, I don't hang on to the mistakes, the off days, the off trainings as long as I did before, because I get to come home to a happy, smiley, happy baby, you know. And I think I am fighting, you know, for his future. I'm always fighting to make sure that he is protected, and he's in this world where he can grow up confident, strong, and see his mom. I think, you know, being the mother of a boy, men, it is a hard world for you all to live in now, and we are holding all men to the highest standard. And I think how I want to raise my son is to respect and appreciate women. And I think him being able to see his mom doing what she does, loving every single ounce of her career. And I think that's exactly what I was so happy to have gained as a mom, especially to a boy, is just for him to see his mom achieving her dream and working hard for everything. And I think it's just that new perspective that I look forward to. It's going to make me the best human being, mom possible, but it's also going to do so many great things for me as a professional soccer player. And I think that is a gift that you only experience when you are a mom, when you take on motherhood and you give this journey a ride.
Two of the best role models right there as moms, for sure. Last thing, because we're down to our final minute, real quickly, each of you, what do you want your legacy to be if you were to give it in one sentence?
I think I would want my legacy to be known as a really, really good teammate.
Oh, I like that, Joss.
Mine as well, but I think I'm already laying this groundwork is the versatility that I think I've been able to give this game for people to finally see that, you know, you don't have to be just good at one thing. You can be versatile and really appreciate the game from different angles and perspectives. So I encourage young kids to not get set in being like, this is all that I can do. No, you could do many things, and it's okay to want to explore different positions and to add to your toolbox.
An analogy for life.
Yes.
Juliana?
Yeah, I think my legacy, what I would like it to be remembered as, is just pure heart and relentlessness. You know, it's just that unwavering faith in your own self, and just knowing that you can do anything that you set your mind to, never giving up, and just being absolutely relentless, having that dog inside of you that says, I'm not going to stop. And you know, I just want to be recognized for that type of heart.
You guys are three gifts, and I thank you so much coming off of crazy seasons, crazy things happening, to spend the time with us and come here and join us has been fantastic. Jocelyn, Crystal, and Juliana.
Thank you.
Thanks, you three.
Thank you.
Is there music to walk off to?
They would like music to walk off to, please. Yeah, we can cue that for sure. There it is. There it is. Get it. All right, next, coming back up, Sarah Spain, Elle Duncan. Let's close this bad boy out, shall we?
It's so nice to finally meet you. Oh my God.
This was my go-to dance move last night. This is all I got. What? Keep it here. Keep it here. Not out here. Not out here. Keep it here. Come on. I introduced you to. It's okay. Come on.
Oh, we were hugging.
Yeah.
We were hugging. We were like, did she call us? Is
Yeah,
she just
called
dancing,
you.
or-
Called you.
That was awesome.
Julie, just tap dance, quite literally around.
I'm showing my dance moves. This is it.
No, we saw different
And
ones
the
last
dying
night.
word.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that after 50. Bad idea.
If for anybody that missed the party, at some point, there's a bottle being spun in the middle of the pie. I was like, what are we doing? Susie started a rave. It was
have
great.
a second career, Elle.
Yeah, your DJ
That was
skills were
on point.
That was our best dance party yet.
Yes.
I blame DJ Elixir.
I'm available for quinceaneras, bat mitzvahs,
Yep.
whatever you need.
That's right. Divorce parties.
Yeah, that too.
Yep. Who wants to kick this off? I will.
Okay.
Okay.
What are we doing? Top three?
Yeah.
Top three?
Yeah, welcome to the summit.
Thank you.
We're going to do top 3 takeaways from this amazing couple days. And I'm going to start with actually Midge Purse, because I think she talked about how she thought her reaction to equal pay was somehow controversial or not expected, and it was. But I think we need to think really deeply about why she felt that way, and why basically they were given a tie and expected to celebrate like they had gotten a win. And I remember during that equal pay stuff that I learned that not a single player from the men's national team attended a single meeting. I want you guys to know that. I'm not trying to dog them, but that's how not as important this negotiation was for their lives and their careers. Midges and everyone. This is life-changing for every single woman involved. And the men didn't even show up to a single meeting, because in the end, their money from FIFA, their money from pro contracts, their money from everything else takes care of things. And that's what we need to remember, is anyone who tries to tell us that this fight is not right or that we're asking for too much needs to remember that just getting to a tie is supposed to be a huge win. That's so frustrating to me.
Yeah.
So keep that energy.
Yeah. My first takeaway was the very opening talk that you gave, Elle. You said something that is a theme that always resonates with me every year. And let me pull it up real quick. You said, of course, that personally, we all have the power here, but the real power lies in the collective.
Absolutely.
Right? So personally, we have the power. Collectively, we have the power to make impact. And it's the thing I'm reminded every year with everything we do, with the thread that runs through all of this, with how are we going to, the next phase of that, of course, is how are we going to make that impact? And I know we talked a lot about that over the last 2 days, But just knowing that you have this sisterhood, that you have this family, that you have this collective potential isn't enough. I think the next step we all have to make is, and it's to my second point, sorry. I'm
Go for it.
two. Second point, Kate Johnson saying in hers, if not now, then when?
If not us, then who?
Right. If not us, then who? Like, it's not enough to be in a position of power. It's not enough. I think for a long time we've been fighting to get that seat at the table. And now we're at the table, but now are we speaking up?
Yeah.
And are we now impacting in a way that is collectively powerful? And that, I think, when you said that first night, I was like, hell yes.
Thanks, Huli.
Yeah.
My new thing is, like, not only do we want a seat at the table, which is fine, but, like, at some point, we want to own the fucking wood that the table is made
Own
of,
that
too,
shit.
right?
Yeah.
Like, quite literally, we want to own the wood.
I like Abby Wambach. She
Yeah.
said, if there isn't a seat at the table, instead of pulling up a chair, we're going to build a new table.
100%. Yeah,
That's what they did
we
with
have
Angel
the power
City,
to do that. I would say that my first takeaway was from the opening night. I think that I am well-meaning, like so many of us, and I think that my record speaks for itself when I say I try to speak up for marginalized communities, for women that look like me, for women that don't look like me. But I had such a huge blind spot that was really revealed, the ignorance surrounding the Iranian women and what they go through simply to have the equity to go watch a soccer match. So being able to speak to Shima Oliai about the upcoming 30 for 30 podcast, Pink Card, it made me feel embarrassed in a way, but that is a function of privilege. So I got over my embarrassment and said, what the hell can I do to make sure that other people know what they are doing right now, what they're fighting for, and I will never, ever look at a soccer match the same way without thinking about those women. So my biggest takeaway is that we are all of us, well-intentioned, well-meaning. We want to do great and big and powerful things, but we all have blind spots. And I was reminded of that I have my own.
Yeah, and being able to acknowledge that the uncomfortableness comes from defensiveness.
Yes.
Because you want to believe that you're someone who would already know that,
Yes.
and then get past that defensiveness
Yes.
and say, okay, now I learn.
Yes.
And now I know better
Right.
for the next group of people that I get out ahead of it and learn
Exactly.
beforehand.
Yep.
That's incredible. Super, super important. So my second one is something that came out through Becky Hammond, Hillary Guy, Cindy Parlow-Cohn, and that was leading people, whether employees or players, as human beings first, and then expecting the output and the result you're looking for. Having those traditionally, stereotypically feminine qualities like empathy and emotion be superpowers to get the most out of your employers or the people that play for you, and having those expectations change, especially for coaches, about being dictators and yelling and screaming and making people fear you so they hear you. No more. It's about respecting you and wanting to do the best for you, and that comes from you treating them like a human being. And I saw that theme through a lot of people's conversations.
That is good.
I'm going to start being nicer to you, Julie. Stop screaming at you backstage.
That should be your third.
Except for when I'm screaming about doing the worm.
Oh God, my third one I've gone a lot of different ways on, but I think the thing that comes back to me is you hear it on the stage a lot throughout. It's not just one takeaway in terms of a person. I remember Hillary Guy mentioning it in her conversation. We had the women of ESPN up here and saying, you know, like, my style is I'm empathetic. My style is I care. Becky Hammond, as you mentioned, Spain, talked about it as being the uniter of her culture. And instead of apologizing for that, right, is finally recognizing that's actually a kick-ass strength. And that's what actually builds a culture and brings people in, and doesn't just bring people in, but most importantly, which is so hard in this world, is it keeps them there.
Yeah.
Right? And it allows them to feel like they're in a place that they feel safe and they feel protected and they feel confident that they can speak up and disagree and all these things that we know are important to building a good business and a good brand and all of those things. But unless we're willing to be who we are, whatever that is, your style, then we're never going to get there, because we always try and be someone else because we think that's what they want. That's what they should act like. That's what we should be. And when Hillary was saying that, I'm like, be empathetically you. Be who you are and celebrate that, because honestly, that's, I think, the strength of women in those positions of power.
100%.
And you'll never go back and wonder, like, if I had been myself truly and shown my true self, will have hit the same measure of success, right? You certainly don't have to look back and wonder. I would say I loved your conversation with St. Vincent. I knew a little bit about St. Vincent coming in, but there was a couple things that she said that stood out to me. But I think most importantly, when she talked about not surrounding yourself with people who are yes women, yes men, yes non-binary people, because sometimes we can exist in echo chambers, you know, and we have fans and our families and our show groups and our collective, and it's important to make sure that you're surrounding yourself by people that challenge you, that want the best version of you to shine, but also understand what that means and entails. And I really appreciate, and the idea that she said doing things hard, stepping into, you know, wading in waters that are difficult, that are scary, pushing yourself to the limits, you know. We throw around the word bravery a lot, but, you know, I think that for all of us, we're scared, right? Like, we're nervous, we have fears, but we just do it scared. So I encourage all of you to do the same thing. Like, when I'm nervous, I just do it anyway. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with telling a joke that no one in the crowd gets. It's as you saw over the last 2 days.
Yeah, you really
it's fine.
proved that, Elle.
It's fine. You survive.
I actually was just listening to my favorite podcast other than mine. That's what she said with Sarah Spain. Smartless. And Jason Bateman
so
said,
good.
oftentimes courage comes on the other side of trying. So you
I just listened
Yes,
to
I
that
love
one.
that.
Yeah.
It's
So
so
you
good.
got to try.
Yeah.
And that can be replaced with fear.
Yeah.
Comes on the other side. So you just do it.
Yes.
And you find the courage after.
I
Okay.
wrote that quote down right when he said it. I was
Me
like,
too.
oh my
And I was like, that's
God.
not a Bateman
kismet.
original, but he's going to get a lot of credit
Yeah,
for it.
he's gonna get
Okay, my last one is really important, especially for everyone in here that works for teams or sponsors or probably any job. When it comes to women's sports, data matters. This came up with Flora. This came up with Crystal Dunn just now in terms of it being an investment and not a charity. This came up with Jess Smith and the Angel City revenue breakout session, which was fantastic. And especially in the last couple years, that's something that I hadn't really registered enough to be prepared to go into meetings with, but you have the resources. Flora Kelly will give you all that data and that research. Sports Innovation Lab, Fan Project, there's 2 iterations now, and each of them will tell you the insights that you need to take into your meetings and say, women's brand affinity is better when you sponsor women's leagues. Women's data and length of watching is longer for the things that they care about. Women are more fluid fans, future fans. You can get to them better now in the current era of viewing and watching. All of that stuff matters because the people in charge don't care about subjective messages of why this is the right thing or why you think it's great and you're a big fan. They care about the numbers. And we have them now. We've put in the work over the last couple years, and all those numbers going up of all the viewing and all the rating, bring those. Don't come in with this fancy presentation of feel good. Come in with the stuff that's been moving the needle for men's sports for years, which is bottom line, revenue, numbers, and how much growth potential there is for a good investment, not just the right thing. And I think that changes a lot of those conversations.
We used to give all these anecdotal information because we'd be like, well, we feel it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see it. The fans care.
It's the year of the woman,
yeah,
again.
Yes, I feel it. And then now you're like, this is how I feel it.
Yes, here's the numbers.
Yeah.
I think Julie did her third already. So I'll just end with this. And I understand that this will be lost on our streaming audience. By the way, we're so grateful for you for tuning in.
No matter what time zone.
No matter what time zone. But last night was so epic. And it was really fun, not just because we danced and had a great time, but I just was watching everyone really disarm themselves. And I was watching everyone let some of their inhibitions go. You know, I'm seeing like CMOs and CFOs like twerking. It was so fun. And I want to thank everyone for just their buy-in, for having a good time, for being so warm and welcoming. Like we had Becky Hammond like rapping Regulate. Like it was, you know, we had our girl here, Foudy, like doing the snake worm thing with a bottle. I still don't know why the bottle was there. We had Chris from marketing table dancing.
Yep.
Hey Chris, like
shout out to Chris.
Yeah, that was solid move.
That was awesome.
Bold.
Yeah, next year we'll work on better moves than this, you know, which is fine.
Raise him up just to knock him down.
I loved it. No, Chris. But again, that just spoke to like, Chris's bosses are there and he got on a table because I forced him to. But it just speaks to sort of the energy here. And I hope that you learned something about someone, that you learned something about yourself, and that you had a great time. And I really appreciate just all of your time and energy yesterday. It was really, really special.
Agreed. Speaking of how special this whole entire thing has been, the venue, the food, the setup, the people on the panels, everything, it goes smoothly because of all the people behind the scenes, and you don't even notice how much work went in because of how well it goes. So
there is a beautiful little dungeon back there.
Yeah.
By dungeon, it still smells like lavender, but they have not left that dungeon the whole time so that you could have the
Some
relaxing
of them are out. Give them a big round of applause.
Yes.
and the months of preparation and hard work and dedication that goes into this. And the two people at the top of that are Laura Gentile and Rachel Epstein. So let's bring them back out.
Let's go, ladies.
Oh, we stand?
Babe. Look at this cute outfit, too.
Is this on? Is this good?
Yeah.
So I
You
just
do
want
it, babe.
to, just a couple thank yous before we send you off on your shuttles or however you're getting home from Shangri-La. Starts with our sponsors. Thank you again to all of you, New Balance, Meta, Google, Gatorade, Ally, Toyota. This is a fantastic event. Couldn't do it without you, for sure. And then, of course, you talked about them a little bit, but our team.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, thank you for doing that. So much effort goes into this.
That's my team.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a
So let me
baller
do that real
photo.
quick. First of all,
Dang, is that an album dropping?
Yeah, exactly. Amanda Marcatulio, Christina Ryan, Stennett Smith, my amazing team who does all of the communications leading in, so you know exactly where to go.
They work so
and where
hard.
to be and all of it. And that's their manager, Susie Petrowski.
Yeah, that's a boss position. You're
My
like,
heart
yo.
is
They're
full,
dropping a
and
new
I'm so
album
grateful
next
for
week.
you guys.
Yeah, and so as Sarah was so gracious and everyone was so gracious, there's so many people involved in making this as hopefully you felt as seamless as it was and as energetic and thoughtful hopefully as it was. It starts with our event marketing team. So I want to thank Maureen Elliott, Lynn Kadri, the entire team, whether you were dancing on tables or not, made a huge difference. Also the design sensibility. I just want to call that out this year. Alex and Liz painstakingly put a real special flourish on this year to make it really fit in with Ojai Valley. I mean, everything from the centerpieces to the signage, and again, months of work that went into that. We have a new producer in Andy. She did a
Andy, let's go. There she is. There she is.
First year, so many new ideas,
Really
ideas for
good.
next year. And we appreciate you diving in. The veterans, Ken Boudreau, Serena
Yes.
Cobbs, always thinking of everything to make sure everybody's comfortable. Want to keep going? There's so many folks.
I think I got my team. I think we got, there is an army.
All the production
There's an
people.
army.
All the production people, miking us up,
Full-blown.
making sure all the tech works, getting all the videos and
Our
music running, all that.
Did you see
Danielle and BK.
Beth?
Yeah.
You might have met Beth on the dance floor last night.
Yeah.
Amazing.
BK's
She
like
had
a
all the
party
moves.
starter.
Yeah.
Just
There she
insert-
is.
There she is.
She had all the moves.
Yes.
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 Danielle's like, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
So
Danielle's like, I'm a professional dancer, so unless you're paying me, I'm not showing you
doing
anything.
I also want to thank you all, our moderators, our hosts.
You
guys were
Elle,
wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Monica,
Yeah.
Malika, who had to head back to work. But again, you are the polish and the glue and the fun and the energy, and you really make this whole thing flow so beautifully. So thank you, year after year.
It's a tough slog. I
I
tell
know.
sorry about
you.
the
Really,
weather.
really hard.
I put in for overtime because I did work longer hours than, so
Yeah.
I'll
By
have
the
that
fire pit, drinking red wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I got drunk a lot last night, way
Next
past
year,
my work time.
we have May NYC, May 4th, 2023. We'll see you there, and we'll see you back here October 23rd.
Back here.
Hey. Oh, hi.
And of course, the last thing
hi.
we want to leave you with, just as a kind of a nice bookend, you all enjoyed the sizzle to begin with. We're going to end with that sizzle again because it speaks volumes to the power we all have together, to working together to make change and also make new business opportunities for us all. So again, thank you for being here. Thanks for your energy and being so engaged. And we'll see you in May and in October.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Awesome.
I'll meet you on the dance floor. We love you all. Thank you.
I didn't get to see this the first time.
Allo gets a hold of one. This has been your stage. This is your moment.
The first equal pay CBA.
I'm honored to make way for other people.
We earned our right to be here just like every other coach.
Please help me, Lord, all on that day. But the rock cried out.
This is just the beginning. We just get started.
The rock cried out. I ain't gonna hide you, God.
less than 24 hours, we celebrated equal rights for women, and now we react to women's rights being taken away.
Be there for each other. Here we go.